Now, ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the start-finish line. I give you our Grand Marshal for the day, Mr. Stephen Briley.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 42 cars come to life here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, 2.6-mile track, 4,000-foot back straightaway. There are the men in the front row. As we take a look at the starting grid, the 79 and 82 champion on the pole, flanked by Sterling Marlin, who's had an excellent run. He could be a real contender today. Going to row 2, Davey Allison, who finished second here a year ago, and Jeff Bodine. In row 3 for today's race is Morgan Shepherd and Dale Earnhardt, the 83 and 84 winner, the only man to win it back-to-back. Next row back is Ken Schrader out of Missouri, Harry Hydecar, he'll be a strong runner, and Bill Elliott, the defending champion. For row 5, there you find Ricky Rudd on the inside, and from Mattatuck, New York, Greg Sachs. In row 6 is the 86 winner, Bobby Hillen from Midland, Texas, and alongside Phil Parsons, who has tasted one Winston Cup victory this season. For row 7, it's Kyle Petty, and there's Buddy Baker, the 1975 winner. Row 8, Mike Alexander, subbing for Bobby Allison and the 85 champion Cale Yarborough. In row 9, it's A.J. Foyt and Harry Gant. For row 10, as the field begins to roll out, Mickey Gibbs and Mark Martin from Arkansas. In row 11 is Terry Labonte of Texas and Rusty Wallace, the current point leader in Winston Cup. Row 12 is Jimmy Means of Huntsville, Alabama, and Eddie Bierschwil from Texas. Row 13 is Rick Wilson from Florida, Dale Jarrett on the outside. Row 14 is Mike Waltrip and Rodney Combs from Lost Creek, West Virginia. Row 15 from San Diego comes Ron Esau, and from Mississippi comes Lake Speed. Row 16 is Ernie Urban of Modesto, California, and Alan Kowicki from Greenfield, Wisconsin. In row 17 today, Brett Bodine on the inside, and the 74 winner, Richard Petty, starts 34th. Going to row 18, Joe Ruttman of Upland, California, and Ken Reagan of Unadilla, Georgia are there. In row 19 is the 76 winner, Dave Marcus of Wisconsin, and Arizona's Phil Barkdahl. Row 20, Ken Bouchard, leading rookie contender in Winston Cup, the Bob Whitcomb car, and Brad Knopfsinger from Huntington Beach, California. And two provisional starters round out the field. Having to take a provisional start, Benny Parsons, and alongside is Derek Cope of Spanaway, Washington. We'll be back to take a look at this field as they come down for a green flag in just a matter of moments here at Talladega, Alabama. Pontiac has never won this race. The leading contender to do so is this man, Rusty Wallace. You're looking out of his car. Rusty, how about it? Is that Blue Max Racing team ready to win here today and stay up and top in the points?
Well, it's going to be a tough one today, I'll tell you, because we're starting way back. But the car's handling good, and I hope that's going to work to my advantage. You're going to come out fast. You're starting 22nd. You're going to try to knock some off in the first lap?
Well, I'm going to do all I can today. It's going to be tough, like I said, but I'm just going to have to count on the handling, going to have to count on the draft, and have to count on a lot of guys working with me. I'm not going to think about the points today. I'm just going to drive hard and try to pull a victory off.
Good luck to you today, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now let's look at the other cars within car cameras. Davey Allison. And he also has a rear camera, rear bumper camera. There's some look at what should be around 198 miles an hour in lap 2. And then a man who won this race previously. You know, CBS has had 2 victories in Daytona. Cale carrying our camera. We understand that another year may see Cale with a different driver. And this man who won in 75 has a camera out of the front of his car looking right up the backside of car number 88, Buddy Baker's machine. Let's take a look at this track itself. 2.66 miles, that back straightaway, 4,000 feet long, 33-degree banking in the east and west end, 18 degrees directly down below us, and a little bit of a banking on the backstretch, more or less to let water run off more than anything else.
Ken, in the grid today, the 42 starters, they represent 514 Winston Cup victories, and 21, exactly half of the field, are previous winners on this circuit.
Down for a start.
You know, Ken, There's only 10 drivers in the field that don't have cool suits on. It is intensely hot down there, and one of those drivers is Bill Elliott. He just said he didn't want to wear one. So everybody but 10 are refrigerated in today's race.
Coming down for a start. 11 Fords, 10 Chevrolets, 9 Oldsmobiles, 6 Buicks, 6 Pontiacs roll across the line. And the $500,000 Talladega 500 is under green here on CBS. Waltrip breaking out in front. Great start. Yesterday, Grant Adcox won again as he outpowered the entire field after a great battle with Patty Moise and Red Farmer in the early going. Who's going to win today? 17 different winners in 19 races. Only one man has ever won it back-to-back, Dale Earnhardt, and the other man who had won it twice, it's Waltrip on the point, being followed by Sterling Marlin to turn 3.
No big surprise that Darrell Waltrip broke out in front. His car has an exceptionally strong engine in it. He feels that that's going to work to his favor here today.
Davey Allison carrying a sign he handmade this morning for his dad. And as you watch Morgan Shepherd slide in there for third in the number 75, replacing Neil Bonnet today. And look at Davey going down on the bottom of the track as he pulls up on Bodine.
3 wide at the start-finish line.
Incredible run down into turn number 1. Look at him, still 3 wide. Davey Allison mixes it right up strong in the early going. And he's going for it. Waltrip is in front. Davey Allison slithers up on the bottom of the racetrack. Goes for second place.
Each of the drivers will try to find them someone that they can run well in the draft with, and get them a dancing partner, so to speak. And it might be that Darrell Waltrip and Davey Allison have a good combination going because they pulled away a little bit from the third place car.
Look at Davey Allison close here.
Davey Allison said earlier he doesn't like the restrictor plate. Darrell Waltrip does like it. Allison said you can't pass 400 horsepower when you only have 400 horsepower. We'll see now if he can do something with his 400 horsepower.
Rusty Wallace coming to 18. Nobody getting away, just as predicted, running these restrictor plates. Here's Rusty Wallace coming up on the outside of Buddy Baker's 88.
Rusty's doing a good job. He's moving up towards the front from where he started.
Here he comes around Kyle Petty now. Closing on Phil Parsons in the 55 car on the inside, following Baker on the high side of the racetrack. Almost getting touched there. At about 200 miles an hour. Incredible pictures here on CBS. Out the backside, you see Rick Wilson, the guy who finished second at Daytona in that incredible finish to Bill Elliott, also meandering up through traffic. Look at this battle up in front.
Wilson has tagged on to Rusty Wallace. He has seen that Rusty is making a move up through the pack. He's sort of jammed in there at the moment, but he'd like to draft with him up towards the front.
3 laps complete of 188, and here's Bodine on the inside. Bodine dramatically falling back out of the draft, and another position picked up by my lights. I think we have him at a 14th now as Wallace continues to follow Buddy Baker. And this morning, Joey Knuckles, the crew chief on the 88, says you're going to see a lot of us today as we are walking up pit road. And here comes the Harry Hyde car, now in third. Down to the inside, Schrader making his move, coming up on the bottom of the racetrack.
Yesterday in practice, he was one of the strongest cars on the racetrack, and several of the drivers said he is one to watch here today. That car is handling very well on the low side of the racetrack, and it looks like car number 31, Joe Ruttman, might be having some problems.
Well, you know, Darrell Waltrip just turned the lap at over 197 miles an hour. It's a mile an hour faster than he qualified. It shows what the drafting will do to lap speeds here.
No way to get away, Chris. You got to run together all day long.
With 7 of them there now, looks like they may be edging away from the rest. That's going to make quite some interesting racing. I tend to like the carburetor plate myself if it stays like this all day.
I don't think the drivers care very much for it, however, except the Randy Dorton people who prepared the engine on number 17. Is it the B&R folks that have the engine that really is in the 25 car?
Yes, out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Randy Dorton, of course, is one of the engine people. They sort of all work together. B&R does a lot of the head work, and they really have come up with some strong engines.
Putting a timer on this one to see what they are in the lap. Here's Allison on the outside of the white and black car, the red car, Schrader on the inside for second. Coming to the line, just out of the trioval. 49.1. 195 mile an hour average.
Be interesting to see if Ken Schrader can nose to get ahead of Darrell Waltrip. If he can, he'll be the only driver to lead every race on the circuit this year. He's the only one to have led every race, and if he pokes his nose ahead, he'll keep his record intact.
Look at Wallace at 195 miles an hour, deployed on the inside Baker, up on the outside Ricky Rudd as he tries to go, and there goes Baker down to the bottom. Up to 13th is Rusty Wallace in the 27. What was that hand signal?
He gave the driver behind him a signal that, okay, thanks for letting me slip into this place on the racetrack.
You see Bodine coming back up through, and here's Joe Rutman's number 31 back on pit road. After just 5 laps, Rutman in for service and going a lap down. Back with the racing, and you're riding with Wallace in this tremendous skirmish. Here he is pulling up on the 86 winner, Bobby Hill, and a number 8 on the bottom side. Ricky Rudd still directly in front of him.
And up front, Waltrip and Schrader are hooked up and pulling away from the pack.
While the others are running side by side for the 3rd position, that does allow them to pull away. That might be a very strong combination.
Ned, what happens to the top speed when cars run side by side? There's more wide.
Yes, and that, of course, scrubs more speed off because you're using so much more air. When one car is running directly behind the other, you're only using a small piece of air, and that lets you utilize the horsepower of both engines and slip through it.
Regimental racing here at Talladega. You're watching it live. One miscue by any one of them. Running at over 190 miles an hour. 2 2/10 of a second separate first and 24th. That's tight. Look at that.
Well, I see down on the inside there, Dale Jarrett's having a good run in the car number 1. He has come from 26th up to about 14th or 15th position.
Ned, most of the cars are using the high groove this early in the race. Does that surprise you? I would think they'd be down low this early.
Not really, Chris. They need to keep the RPMs of the engine up as much as they possibly can. They can do that better on the high side of the racetrack than they can down low. So that gives them a better shot off the turn.
Wallace in heavy traffic. Mike Alexander has gone from 15th to 7th in the Bobby Allison car, and now you're in Davey Allison's car. Here he is right there fighting with Sterling Marlin. Davey Allison deployed 5th. Sterling Marlin is in 4th. Let's check in on Cale Yarborough coming up through traffic. He's on the bottom of the racetrack here. Let's take a look from his front bumper. That's what it is at ground level at 195 miles an hour is car number 11. You can see it just slide a little as the air gets beneath the Terry Labonte Junior Johnson prepared car. Just in front of them, that black number 6, Mark Martin. Incredible pictures here on CBS, giving you an idea of just how tender these cars are to the touch at these tremendous speeds.
They have to have a lot of confidence in each other, Ken, to run as close together as they are running at well over 190 miles an hour. The cars are very manageable when they're out there by themselves, but when they get in the draft and you start affecting the air, then it's a different situation. You really have to be on your toes and concentrate fully 100% all the time.
You never know they were going substantially slower right now than they did a year ago today. The pole speed was 196.274, and the slowest qualifier, 187.3, a separation of 8.9 miles an hour between the fastest and the slowest man. Unless you're sitting here with a stopwatch, you'd never know it was a slow race.
The front 2 have pulled away about 1 1500ths of a second away from the 3rd place car. So Darrell Waltrip and Kenny Schrader, the draft is working for them. Dale Earnhardt currently in the 3rd position.
And going 4th, Sterling Marlin, 5th, Davey Allison, 6th, Bodine, 7th, Alexander, 8th is Baker at the present time. 9 laps complete of 188 this time by. Rusty Wallace has scooted from 22nd to 12th. All week long they've been playing catch-up on the Wallace's car. They've been in here at 4:30 in the morning. They are now, I believe, using their Watkins Glen engine. They just weren't getting the kind of power they wanted. Look at these 2 Chevrolets draw away. Chevy's only won this race twice, 77 and 84, with Allison and Earnhardt, respectively.
We talked to Dale Earnhardt this morning, Ken, about drafting and what it does to engine temperatures when you're nose to tail like this. And he said that engine temperatures do go up. You got to pull out of the draft a little bit. He says when you do that in one straightaway, the engine temperature will drop 5 to 10 degrees. And we wonder if Schrader's engine is starting to get hot.
He's running awfully close to Walter, but that's the ultimate in getting the most speed is running that close. But yes, he'll have to pull out and get him a little fresh air every once in a while.
From the pits, here's Dave Despain.
A lot of talk about team strategy. Who's your drafting partner here at Talladega? Who helps pull you up through the field? Rick Hendrick owns the lead 2 cars. Darrell Waltrip and Kenny Schrader. Wasn't hard for you guys to find a partner. Obviously, your strategy was plotted well in advance, and you knew this was going to happen, right?
I wish I could say that's true, David. No, cars are running good. We knew they were going to run good today, and you know, the same guys built the engines in both cars, so we're glad to see them up there. I hope we can stay there.
Did you know they'd run well together? There's so much talk about which body styles draft together. Did you know those two Monte Carlos would run well together?
Yeah, we knew they'd hook up and run good. Jeff and Kenny did the same thing back here in the last race, so we were expecting them to hook up, and hopefully we can pull away a little bit. It's going to be a tough day, though.
One quick one. Jeff backed up a little bit. Is he okay?
He's coming back up now. Everything's all right.
That's Rick Hendrick, who owns 2 of the top 5 cars on the racetrack.
Waltrip and Schrader first and second, and you can see the rest of the field trying to catch up with them. We asked Kenny Schrader, currently second, what it takes to be a great race car driver.
You've got to have a desire to just every time you get strapped in there, just to beat everybody else, not to go out there and run that race, but just to really trounce on everybody, you know, make them look bad, just whoop them big time. You need to know your car because, I mean, you're out there, it's like you and the car have to act as one, work as a unit together. You need to understand what makes that car work. And I think to understand it and having the desire, and then you've got it throughout your career, you have to have the brakes, so you've got the financial backing and the equipment and the personnel behind you that it takes to put all of it together.
Davey Allison just sent Schrader back a spot, and Allison is going for the lead in turn 1. Bottom of the racetrack, Davey Allison, second here a year ago, going for it. He has Waltrip pinned on the outside, and it's Allison going for first. Into second move Schrader, and here comes Earnhardt in the man in black in car number 3.
And Schrader caught the toe right there.
Back straight away, Earnhardt on the inside. He may be going for it.
Well, it looks like the Dale Earnhardt of old there in second place now.
Switching positions up in front, giving Davey Allison the advantage for the moment in the Ford, and from his vantage point, this is what it looks like with Waltrip. Earnhardt having to jump off that outside groove. I think he might have been in contact. Earnhardt and Waltrip side by side, and look at the Earnhardt car on the bottom wander just a little under that tremendous power and pressure.
This is a little therapy for his father up in that Allentown Hospital, who we're sure is watching right now. Get well, Bobby.
Let's take a look at replay of what just about happened here. Earnhardt.
In fact, he might have gotten touched just a little bit by Phil Parsons from the rear there that put his car almost in the spin.
Great ability on Earnhardt's part to correct out of that with no lasting effect. Somebody else might have spun.
First to 6, 4/10 of a second, Chris.
Unbelievable competition.
Take a look at these pictures. As you watch Davey Allison slide back, and look at those cars just weave and bob. They look so stable from outside in the grandstand or looking down from our camera locations, but inside you get a sense of what it is to manhandle 3,500 pounds of steel at close to 200 miles an hour.
Well, there are 8 cars now in that lead pack as we see them go into turn 1. Moments ago, Ken Schrader and Darrell Walter for a little over a second ahead, but the others hooked up in a draft, ran them down, and now we have a change of lead again.
It's an 8-car ballet up for front. Look at this. Now Schrader's nosed in. If he can hold that to the start-finish line, he will have perpetuated his record.
Chevrolets line up side by side, 3 deep, going down into turn number 3. Chris, you've been covering Formula One all year. How many passes have you had for the lead this year?
Why, we've had 2, Ken. I remember them well.
In how many races?
In 9 races, we've had 2 passes for the lead. Memorable one.
Here we are, still even here at Talladega in the most competitive racing in the world, coming down to complete the 15th lap. As Waltrip on the inside, as Earnhardt to contend with now. And Davey Allison on the high side, going down into the 33-degree banking another time. Exciting racing, and will be so all afternoon here on CBS, so stay with us to be followed by the Buick Open later today. We'll return with more live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500 after this word from your local station. Back with you once again as we look at the leader, Dale Earnhardt, in the number 3 with Davey Allison chasing him. Chevrolet versus Ford with 18 laps of 188 complete. And you see Bodine getting back into it in the 3rd spot. Here they come into the tri-oval. Marvelous picture of this immense crowd. It's like the largest they've ever had here.
And here again, we see the front 2 that's hooked up and running directly behind Davey Allison, directly behind Earnhardt. The others running side by side back there for position, allowing the front 2 to get away a little bit.
Ford Chevy duo up in front, and further back, this is what they would look like. We'd like to give you a rundown currently on the top 15, but they are swapping positions every lap so rapidly. Makes it a little difficult. Here's your leader, Dale Earnhardt, 2-time winner. Davey Allison, runner-up a year ago. centering his attention on getting by the big black number 3.
Well, it shows the significance of the draft, Kennedy, because the fastest cars just a few minutes ago were Waltrip and Schrader, and they're back now at the tail end of that drafting pack.
Could be that their chassis is changing a little bit as the tires heat up. Sometimes they'll have a tendency to get a little bit loose, and Darrell Waltrip is one driver who does not like to drive a car with a loose chassis on it. If it starts to move around a little bit with it, he'll just sort of ease out and run along with the pack and not try to do anything spectacular.
Give a call to Phil Parsons. That's right where he got in trouble several years ago and flipped 18 times. There's Ruttman in trouble again, number 31. Ruttman will be pitting as he drops down, smoke pouring out of the back of the number 31 car.
The caution flag is coming out, and evidently he dropped a little oil on the racetrack, so this will give them an opportunity. Most of them, I think, will be coming into the pits once they get back to the start-finish line.
Caution coming out at lap 20. The first 10-lap rundown had an average speed of 192 miles an hour. In the days before they restricted the cars and put on the carburetor plate, we went 200 miles an hour back in 1986 at an average speed of 200.334. So that record will not be tampered with, nor the second 20 laps here today.
And here they come down pit road.
It may be there'll be no cars on the track.
Most everyone will take advantage of this caution period to come in and change tires, fill them up with fuel, and make any adjustments that they may need. There's the windshield getting cleaned, Davey Allison's car.
One car staying on pit road. There's Cale Yarborough coming in. I think only Mickey Gibbs will stay on. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Quick pit stop for Jeff Bodine. They took on left side tires only. Now, usually in a situation like this under caution, they'll take on 4 tires to see how that car has been performing and measure up the stagger and everything about those tires as they come back in. We'll try to get word from Waddell Wilson in a minute to find out why. Now let's go to Dave Despain.
Darrell Waltrip in and out in 24 seconds for a 4-tire change and fuel. The car that had been the early front runner has now dropped back into that draft a little bit. Jeff Hammond is the crew chief. Jeff, what changes did you make to try to get Darrell back to the front?
Well, really, we don't have a problem right now, Dave. It's still a long ways in the 500-mile race, so we told Darrell to back off, see what the competition had for us, and let's not try to bow up anything so early in the race. We were just checking everybody out. We're in good shape.
He told me this morning he had the best car that he'd ever had to win this race, and now what he had to do was not go out and burn it down. Is this conservative strategy early part of the plan?
Well, I wouldn't call it conservative. I just would call it probably being smart, because it's real hot here today, and you can see right now there's a lot of guys that are really going to be tough today. So we're trying to, have our equipment around at the end. That's the main thing.
Jeff Hammond keeping his car in the lead draft, back up top.
Okay, it was a bad pit stop for Ken Schrader. He spun coming in, and as a consequence, he went out last.
From Cale Yarborough's car, here's what it looks like coming off pit road, Chris. Cale Yarborough's number 29. This is from that front bumper camera in the machine. First you see the Ricky Rudd car pulling out. Almost hits this wheel. Away and running. Cale coming back out with his car number 29, carrying one of our 3 CBS onboard cameras today. Boy.
It gets busy on pit road when they have a caution flag early, and the signal is that we'll get back to green flag racing. One more lap when they come to the start-finish line this time.
Now you're inside Cale Yarborough's car with 21 laps complete.
Mickey Gibbs chose not to make a pit stop, Ken, and as a result, he's the leader.
He gets 5 extra points for leading the race. He's a graduate of Bob Harmon's All-Pro Short Track circuit. All right, Mike Joy down pit road is with Waddell Wilson.
He's having a word with his driver, Jeff Bodine, and as we saw a second ago, that quick pit stop got him right to the front. Is that why you only took on 2 tires?
Yes, Goodyear told us there wouldn't be any problem with tires today. After the ARCA race yesterday, everything looked real good, and we decided just to change 2 now, and we looked at the others, they were okay, and filled it up with gas, because drafting is so important here, and if you get out of the draft or out of the lead draft, you really get yourself in trouble. And we got back once today and had to work our way back up. So I want to try everywhere in the world to keep him up there if I can.
So they've forsaken fresh tires on the right side for track position. We'll see how they do.
Leading the event is 30-year-old Mickey Gibb, who won 7 of the All-Pro Series last year. Car owned by his dad, Don Gibbs. And you see the black number 01 out in front out of Gainesville, Georgia.
Now that the tires are all doing well, we don't hear much about the tire war, in quotes, between Goodyear and Hoosier. However, 13 drivers in the race have elected to start on Hoosier tires, the balance on Goodyear's.
Goodyear seems to be the selection on today's race.
That's right. Goodyear been around a long time. He's got a lot of experience in this track. It's interesting. This track is banked 2 degrees more in the turns than Daytona, and it's at 0.16 miles longer, and it's traditionally a lot faster. Just those little differences make for a lot more speed.
So we're watching Gibbs at this moment in the 19th position on the start, now leading the group out of Glencoe, Alabama, in the Gibbs West Racing Ford. And I believe this is the same car that won at Daytona carrying the Elliott colors. This was a Bill Elliott car, this black number 01 that we see up in front with Bodine in second. Phil Parsons doing a grand job in third, Lake Speed in fourth, and Sterling Marlin in fifth.
Ken, to help combat the heat here today, there is ice and cold towels in every third pit. Now that was put there. Now many of the teams have their own ice and towels and whatever they can do to help keep things cooler. The green flag waves.
Coming down for the start, Gibb out in front. Remember that 6 drivers have won their first Winston Cup race here in Talladega. Brickhouse in '69, Brooks in '73, Pond in '78, Rod Bouchard in '81, Hillen in '86, Davey Allison in the Winston 500 in '87. Gibbs immediately falls back. He may not be one of them.
Possible problem there. Jeff Bodine nosed ahead of Gibbs before the start-finish line and took the flag first. That may cost him.
He might have jumped the flag. We'll see if he does indeed get a black flag, and I think he is going to. It'll be a stop-and-go penalty, so that strategy that they worked out by changing only 2 tires is going to backfire on him.
And 55, Phil Parsons, is perched up in front for the moment. There's Bodine shown as the leader. Let's see if a consultation flag comes out as they come down by. Lake Speed finds himself going to the 3rd spot as the field.
And Jeff Bodine does come down pit road. Boy, this is a costly pit stop for him. It'll be just a stop-and-go penalty. And that's all it was, but the full field has completely gone by him. He didn't have to spend much time in there, but it's going to cost him a lot of time on the racetrack.
What do you think's going through his mind now?
Oh, he's got to be frustrated. Said, I got on the gas just a little bit too early. If I'd waited just a 1/10 of a second.
His wife will talk to him, too, when it's over.
Waltrip in the 17 down to the bottom of the racetrack, picking up 1, 2, 3 automobiles as he closes up on traffic, and Davey Allison hurdles along with him up through traffic. There you see Lake Speed dancing the number 83 up there, and almost touching the number 3 as they come through traffic. Wild racing up in front, and to the lead goes car number 17. Darrell Waltrip's
car works so well on the inside of the racetrack. Now, we were talking about him dropping back just a little bit there earlier. His car began to move up the racetrack. That was as a result of the tires heating up a little bit, but when he has cool rubber on it, that car will stay right down on the inside of the racetrack.
Now remember, heat is the issue. We're not worried about burning their feet anymore, but they burn their hands, they burn their knuckles. The steering wheel becomes literally white hot. A.J. Foyt had to retire because of that a year ago. Look at Lake Speed challenging on the inside on that 4,000-foot back straightaway.
Some of the drivers, the newcomers here, had to put extra insulation on the floorboards to practice. The cars got so hot during practice. Kenny Schrader, incidentally, is back in 28th place after that long pit stop because of his spin on pit road.
Here's Wallace down on the inside, knocking him over like 10 pins as he hurdles up through traffic. 25 laps are complete in our live CBS coverage of the 20th annual Talladega 500. Stand by for more. Back with you. This is how they were lined up at 25 of 188 complete. Waltrip was in the lead with Davey Allison then second. Dale Earnhardt was in third. Lake Speed was fourth, and Phil Parsons was fifth. What a difference a lap or 2 makes. Now showing 28 complete, and it was Waltrip out in front. It's Earnhardt second, Parsons third, Davey Allison fourth, and here comes Dale Jarrett in the number 1 car, and on the outside is Mike Waltrip. Now there are a couple of those dark horses you were alluding to, Chris, that could really be factors here. Dale Jarrett is driving a marvelous race. Down to the bottom in number 1, and Mike Waltrip, who had a second earlier this year at Pocono, Pennsylvania, continues to bring his car up through the Chuck Ryder machine, pacing himself very well, was 19th after the caution. He's flown through traffic.
Those top 5 were all General Motors cars, but here comes Bill Elliott in car number 9, the Ford exponent.
Now, Dale Jarrett got himself in a bad position. He was trying to move by Davey Allison for fourth on the inside. Couldn't quite do it. Bill Elliott moved around him, and looked about a half a dozen other cars moved by him just on one straightaway.
Feast or famine, huh, Ned?
Yep. Boy, you can go back in a hurry. You can come towards the front in a hurry.
Lake Speed in car number 83 is up into the 6th position, and he's having a swell race today. Let's go to his pit area and see what the story is.
Well, the story is how he got to the front from 30th starting spot. We saw Bodine just change 2 tires, improve his track position. Darrell Bryant, crew chief for Lake Speed. How'd you guys get from 30th all the way to the front?
Well, what we did, we were running pretty good. We started so far back, so when that caution came out, we decided to put some gas in it and go. The car's working real well on the tires that's on it.
No tires on the pit stop then. That puts you all the way up to the front, but now you're slipping back into that big pack. Should you have maybe changed the tires?
Well, no, I don't think so. Right now, we're slipping back, but we catch the draft right. We come back that time by, we're still running. We moved ourselves back up the fifth that lap there. So we're going to slide back in the car. We hope we can stay with that lead pack.
All right, it's all part of the strategy of the draft. Darrell Bryant hopes his man's got it right.
Now, car number 29, Karen, one of our onboard cameras. That is the the Cale Yarborough car is in 17th position, and Rusty Wallace is currently being shown in the 19th position in this field and sort out. This is incredible racing today, and again, the issue becomes the carburetor restrictor plate, which took about 10 miles an hour off the field and put them all together in a bunch. It makes for very nervous competition because drivers that don't usually run up here with the top men are all mixing it up today. Gentlemen, how do you feel about that? First unit.
Well, I think the restrictor plate has definitely tightened the field up. It has slowed them down a little bit where they can race. Darrell Waltrip made the statement to his fan club meeting yesterday morning, which I attended. He said a couple of years ago we were running 215 miles an hour in competition here. He said we couldn't pass because we're running too fast. He says now they say you can't pass because you don't have the horsepower. But at least the cars are all running close together, and they are doing a lot of passing out there, Chris.
I think what's happened, this is the fourth and final race of the year where the restrictor plates will be in use, and the engine men have learned how to manicure those engines where driver A has a better engine than driver B, so it's coming back to where we're going to see some racing like that. Another interesting point is the only driver in the top 5 without a cool suit is Mike Waltrip. All the other drivers up front are refrigerated.
Davey Allison seems to be sliding back a bit in the field right now as we watch Bill Elliott in 5th place, Sterling Marlin there in 6th, and the Wilson car in 7th. Let's go down to Mike Joy and find out what's happening on Davey's car.
Well, Ken, Davey took on 4 tires on that last stop. We saw Jeff Bodine take lefts. Dale Earnhardt, some of the other leaders just took on rights. And team manager Robert Yates says that these tires are not quite as well balanced as the first set they had on. I don't mean wheel balance, but the relation of the right side to left side circumference, or stagger as we call it, is just not as good as the set on which they started the race. And also, to respond about your question on restrictor plate racing, I spent some time in the grandstand yesterday, and the fans were deriding it. They were saying it's turned Talladega from the fast speedway into a horse track. But I think sitting up there today, the race they're seeing will change their minds.
Have to wait and see on that one. Getting that restrictor plate right and actually getting the carburetor to feed that fuel in and not puddle on top of the plate is the reason you're seeing the 17 car blow away, and I would presume the 3. Wallace's people were having a terrible time with it, Harold Elliott, and here comes one car on pit road. I believe this is Rusty Wallace now coming in. Has been running in 17th spot.
And this would be an unscheduled pit stop for him, Ken. Let's see what they do. They're going to the right side. You can see the crew, and Dave Despain is there.
Winston Cup point leader Rusty Wallace on pit road, definitely unscheduled. You can see a scuff mark on the left side from contact on the racetrack. That is not the problem. The preliminary indication was a blistered tire. It appears that they don't know which tire it is, and they're going all the way around. They are going to be putting Hoosier tires on the car. It's Hoosiers off and Hoosiers on for Rusty Wallace, but it's a long and painful pit stop for the Winston Cup point leader. He'll fall way back to the back of the pack.
And he will go one lap down, Dave Despain, as Darrell Waltrip comes by as Rusty Wallace comes out of the pits.
There you see Waltrip and Earnhardt going by, putting Wallace a lap down, and you saw 24 and 2/10 seconds of frustration on the current point leader by just 3 points going into this battle over Bill Elliott. This could be a turning point for Wallace. Wallace had said earlier, and Barry Dotson had supported it, that they hadn't focused on these 4 super speedway races, but instead had really focused on short track and the medium range facilities. And now they wish they had done a bit more research on these facilities, these big tracks. But of course, they're moving next to Watkins Glen, New York, and he's been a winner there for the past few years. Here's Darrell Waltrip continuing to lead with Dale Earnhardt attached to the rear bumper with the number 3 car. We asked Darrell what it takes to win here at Talladega.
You got to really maintain a little consistency. You don't have to be the fastest car here all day, but you certainly got to be consistent all day. Don't get a lap down for some reason. Stay in the lead draft if you can, but if you can, at least stay close enough to it that when a caution comes out, you can close back up. The other thing that's important to know is where the start-finish line is. I could be a 3-time winner of this race if the start-finish line was about 10 foot this further back toward turn 4. Ron Bouchard passed me here one year to beat me out. But knowing that start-finish line is way down there where it is a very important thing to remember when you get ready to try to take the lead or get ready to win this race.
Coming back by car number 3, staying in the front position now. Dropping back is Waltrip. 4 cars blasting down into turn number 1, battling for the lead here in the Talladega 500. More in a moment. With 37 laps complete, Earnhardt was in the front position. In second spot was Darrell Waltrip. Third was Phil Parsons. Fourth was Davey Allison. And at that time, fifth was Bill Elliott, last year's winner. Rusty Wallace now running 20th in this event. There you see some facts on Wallace. The 1988 championship run. He came in here with a 3-point lead over Bill Elliott. He told me earlier, he said, Dale's a lot of fun to race, Earnhardt. He says, when I went to go by him recently, gave him the old salute, and I counted 1, 2, 3. And sure enough, when I got to 3, I felt him tapping my rear bumper. And he said, I looked up in the mirror, and I saw Dale smiling and just waving bye-bye.
Well, they're good friends, but they are fierce competitors on the racetrack. They like to pull a lot of practical jokes on each other, and they like to nudge each other a little bit on the racetrack. It's fun too.
I don't think any of us will forget 1980 Atlanta when Roger Penske brought Rusty Wallace in for a race. And he finished second at Atlanta. And the man who won that race that day?
Dale Earnhardt.
Dale Earnhardt.
And when Roger Penske picks you, you know you've gone through quite a screening process.
Still very high on him. Getting set for a start. They've got the field straightened out, and guess who's in first as they get ready to turn them loose. Man who won this race in 1985, one of the all-time giants of American stock car racing, hasn't won a race since 1985, but there he is, the great one from Timmonsville, South Carolina. Cale Yarborough is on the point, and Phil Parsons, the youngster who won his first race this year, is in second. And notice that car number 5 is being shown a lap down on the inside.
Yes, he lost a lap during that unscheduled pit stop. He'll be trying to get that back now, Ken, on this restart. Let's see if he can do it.
Third is Waltrip, fourth is Earnhardt, fifth is Elliott, sixth Labonte as we look at them here, seventh would be Greg Sachs, eighth is Alexander, ninth is Davey Allison, 10th is Michael Waltrip, 11th is Sterling Marlin, 12th is Ken Reagan, and 13th is Lake Speed. As they turn them loose, back under green at lap 74 of 188 to be run here on the 2.6-mile high bank Alabama International Motor Speedway. Live on CBS today with Chris Economaki and Ned Jarrett alongside. I'm Ken Squire, bringing you the action of one of America's great stock car classics. Here's the battle for the lead in the back straightaway, and Phil Parsons is going for it. I believe that's the first time he's led today.
And he moved by Cale with ease with the help of Darrell Waltrip, and here's Dale Earnhardt down on the inside. Cale caught up on the outside, no one to draft with, and everybody just moves right on by him on the inside.
Everybody's slipping up on the inside, including Jeff Bodine, still a lap down to those leaders.
How refreshed, Ned, was that long yellow for these drivers?
It did give them an opportunity to relax, cool down just a little bit, get something cool to drink, and most of them will, of course, turn that air conditioner or their cool suit down a little bit during that period of time, but at least it does give them time to relax a little bit, but they're anxious for the green flag to get out again.
Parsons out in front. Can he win again on a super speedway? Won here earlier this year in the Winston 500. Here comes Waltrip back after him.
Waltrip felt that he had the strongest car here in May when Phil Parsons did win, but he had an engine problem, and showing again today that he does have a very strong car.
And look at Parsons fall back into fourth. Elliott up to third, Earnhardt into second now. Waltrip leading. 76 laps this time by Chris.
Those heartbeat of America Chevys are really showing well today, but Bill Elliott in the Ford is right there in third place. It's going to come down perhaps to a Ford Chevrolet battle for top honors in this one.
Well, and let's not forget either that Phil Parsons continues this great run that he's had all afternoon. He's qualifying as we look at some of the traffic out here. Take a look at some of the leaders. Laps have been completed. That car number 55 that started in 12th, an Oldsmobile, could be a real factor before the day is done.
11 drivers have led the race so far, and we're yet to reach the halfway point.
Again, a capacity house is here at Talladega, Alabama to enjoy this day. The temperature now stands about 100 degrees. over 100,000 here to watch this event. Later this afternoon, the Buick Open here on CBS. More live coverage.
Notice the line that Waltrip is taking extremely low down in turns 1 and 2. Before he was running up higher on the track.
When he has
chassis obviously has been adjusted.
And the fresh tires, I think, Chris, that they put on during the caution period allows him to stay down and not drift up on the track. And that's the way he likes it. He likes to run low on the racetrack. Richard Petty and other drivers like to run high.
Petty likes the rim. He's a real rim rider.
Yeah. But everybody following him down on the inside there now.
6 cars in the lead lap, 7 laps in the pack, 1 car Bodine a lap down.
Okay, let's take a look at Rusty Wallace. A moment ago was making a move. He's behind the 0-1 and he's motioning for somebody to come with him. I want to pass. That's Ken Schrader behind him. He said, I want to pass. Come on with me. And he did.
Well, here he is.
How much help would Schrader pulling it behind him give him? How important is that to the pass?
Oh, it's very important because it helps him to use that same air and just draft right on past the car in front of him.
Mark Martin's number 6 now being challenged by the 27. The leader. Waltrip gets breathing room. Almost 3 car lengths and then it disappears again.
Now that was a subject of the press's speculation that drivers are going to get, as they call them, dancing partners before the race. But of course you don't know where your dancing partner is going to be. So you have to pick up somebody and take advantage of who's there at the moment to form a 2-car drafting team.
And there are combinations of cars that just seem to work better at Daytona. We mentioned at the top of the show that Bill Elliott came from 38th place. The reason he was able to do that, he learned he was about to be lapped by Rick Wilson, and he learned that those 2 cars running together could run faster than any other cars on the racetrack, and a caution came out. He got to catch up, and as a result he went on to win the race. So the Ford and an Oldsmobile in that particular case worked very well together, but the Chevrolet seemed to be working well together here today.
Here's Dale Earnhardt trying on the inside of Waltrip for the number 1 place. So you can understand why these engineers and team managers spend so much time and so much money with their cars in the wind tunnel. Get them aerodynamically right.
One that seems to be right at the moment is number 5, Bodine. Seems to have the power, like to get his lap back. Sequestered behind those 3 leaders with Darrell Waltrip continuing to lead. Dale Earnhardt in 2nd and Phil Parsons, the spoiler, riding in 3rd here in the Talladega 500. This Talladega Diehard 500 race summary is sponsored by Quaker State Motor Oil, where the big Q stands for quality. We've got trouble in turn 4. 1 car out of shape, caution coming on. It's one of the Stavola cars.
Mike Alexander.
It's Mike Alexander in the Bobby Allison ride. Getting loose. Looks like he's lost his windshield perhaps. Was running in 11th. Car number 12 is in.
Well, he came down and was able to, when he ended his spin, he was on the pit road, or when he was out of trouble, and he came right down, stopped in his pits. His crew chief, Jimmy Phoenix, said, go on back out. Let's stay in the lead lap, and we'll come back in next time around.
Rusty Wallace had a pretty good vantage point to watch all of that. Let's see what Rusty saw.
Okay, here they are coming off of turn 4. And we see up in front of him that looks like Mike Alexander's car just gets loose, and then the smoke really gets in Rusty's eyes, but he makes a good move to the outside and moves on around the spinning car, Mike Alexander.
See how gentle a touch on the steering wheel was from that? He hard moved it about 1/8 of an inch is all.
Yeah, you
cool, calm and collected guy.
Can't move too radically.
Let's take a look at normal speed at this as the windshield was sucked out of car number 12. Mike Alexander.
Watch his hand on the steering wheel.
He's on the inside of another car, and all of a sudden the back end just goes out from under it, and around he goes.
So Mike Alexander, who's had a 10th, 15th at Daytona, 15th at Pocono, having misfortune here today. Pulls the car into the pits as we are into the 4th caution of the afternoon. Here's Alexander coming in. They prepared for a new windshield, I am sure. And they immediately go to work on car number 12.
And that'll be the first thing they'll do.
Here's Mike.
Well, you see how quickly they can get this windshield in. They didn't have an old one to take out. Usually this change takes about 30 seconds. The clips screw in. There's the Allen wrench to hold down the retaining clips. And you see the bars behind the glass. That's what saved Mike from that windshield imploding in on him. Now, since he's here, they'll take the time to put tires on the car and fuel it, but their main concern, keeping Mike Alexander on the lead lap.
It's not often that you can make a pit stop under your own yellow flag, get all the work done, get back out without losing a lap.
Very true.
He stalled.
He started to go again, and now he's backing up. Let's see. That's a little unusual that you see him backing up.
Here's Mike.
Now you see they had prepared to change 4 tires, dropped the jack, and Mike went off. But the NASCAR official right here on the spot noticed the lug nuts were already off the left front tire, so he had to come back and put them on, or that wheel would have fallen off as soon as he tried to move the steering wheel.
Now, that's a sharp official.
Very definitely. So he still remains in the lead lap, though. It takes a while to go around this track under caution, so they were able to do all of that work and keep him on the lead lap.
Imagine calling your friendly automotive repairman saying, I'd like to get the windshield changed, 4 tires, work
Can you
done.
imagine what the estimate would be if you took your car to the downtown and how long? They'd want it a week, and they'd want several $100s for the work.
Of course, now that was not a cheap pit stop here, because that set of tires is about $700, and of course the windshield, I guess, would be another $150 or whatever.
And where do you find somebody to change a windshield?
We asked Mike Alexander if he feels pressure filling in for the injured Bobby Allison.
You know, coming into this race where he's won more here than anybody else, that's a little pressure, and we're working extra hard to make sure that we can run as well maybe as Bobby had. But, you know, we're not trying to fill his shoes, and I know there's no way I could ever do that, but if we run the best we can, then we'll make him proud of us.
Less than a lap to the green flag. Bill Elliott is back on pit road for a second time. They had a very long initial pit stop. They sensed a problem with the right rear tire, and now they're having trouble on that side of the car getting that change made. They're working over there on the right-hand side of the car, and this is definitely going to be a big problem for Bill Elliott, because it's going to put him all the way back to the if indeed he can get back out there before this field comes around. They are not able to get that tire changed. They're topping off the gas tank, but that's just a precautionary thing. The real problem here is definitely the tire situation. And let's get a word quickly from Dan Elliott if we can. Dan, what happened?
Got a lug nut on the rear we can't get off, and didn't get the tire changed. So.
Did you get that tire on?
No.
Let's go to Mike Joy up pit road.
Well, I'm with Jimmy Fennig, and you and Pat Broyles were having a little bit of a laugh there, but you guys, it's a lot of work to do in a hurry.
Yeah, I think he lost it, or somebody got close to him and tagged him maybe. I don't know. We don't know for sure, but the windshield come out, then we had to put 4 new tires on right away, and we got a little miscommunication in the pit there, and he pulled off without the lug nuts on the left side, so we called him back. But everything's going all right.
You're still on the lead lap?
Still on the lead lap. And Bobby, hurry up, buddy. We miss you.
Okay. That's Jimmy Fennig, crew chief for Bobby Allison. Mike Alexander, the relief driver.
As we reported earlier, Bobby Allison is on the mend, and that's really good news. Under caution, continuing under a yellow flag here at Talladega, Alabama. Coming down for a start to complete 87 laps. With Darrell Waltrip first, Terry Labonte second, Blake Speed third, Michael Waltrip fourth, Ken Schrader fifth, Mark Martin sixth, Davey Allison in seventh, Phil Parsons eighth, Cale Yarborough in ninth, and Greg Saxon 10th. Cale, who has only finished 2 races all year, in ninth position on this restart. And Jeff Bodine down at the bottom trying to get his lap back. Waltrip cuts across immediately to the low side of the racetrack and draws away. 17.
He has done this several times. He really has a good transmission to ratio that really works for him on these restarts.
You know, here we had Bill Elliott knocking on the door for the lead. Now Bill is at the other end of this lineup, way back next to last.
On the 4,000-foot back straightaway in our live coverage here on CBS of the Talladega 500 for the 20th time. Watching car number 20, Mike Waltrip, making some very good moves once again this afternoon. Darrell Waltrip out in front, and his 6'4" brother is up into the top spots now, showing third. And there's Rusty Wallace in the white and green car.
Boy, look
to the eye of the needle picking up machinery here.
Really did. He went from high down to low.
Dave Despain.
The problem for Bill Elliott, it was the classic $2 part, the lug nut. Not this one. They took the lug nut that failed and threw it halfway out of this ballpark. It's simply rounded off. These edges that catch the studs or that catch the notches on the socket, rounded off. They had no way to get it off. They had to bring him in twice more, finally put vice grips on it and muscle it off. It was the lug nut, not the stud, that caused the problem. He's now back out with all good lug nuts, but he's all the way at the back of the field.
Here's Davey Allison really slowing down in car number 28. Something amiss on his Ford. Going into turn 3, the field shooting by. Davey Allison, this is CBS. Can you tell us what's going wrong out there?
Might be a little bit noisy in there for Davey to hear. Davey, what's wrong? Can you hear us? I would say that something has gone wrong with the engine on his Ford, and he'll be coming into the pit area, unfortunately for Davey.
3 blown engines the last 4 races for Davey Allison. Such a frustration, but feeling so good about the fact that his dad is on the mend and seeming better every day.
Well, he's making that wide looking turn, and yes, he is indeed heading into the garage area.
Davey Allison retiring from the 20th annual Talladega 500, and there is the Ruttman car smoldering another time today. Well, that's been an ongoing smokescreen.
That car is painted hot pink and cranberry. It's sponsored by a figure salon. Slender, you were joking with Joe about his uniform the other day being hot pink and cranberry. Not racing colors, really.
Well, you can see Davey Allison has brought his car into the garage area, pulled it up behind his tow truck, and out of it for the day. Unfortunately, that's a very disappointing position to be. This is sort of the low of a race driver's life right now.
Here's Dave Despain.
Well, the Allison family has certainly had its troubles here over the last few weeks and months, but they've pulled together. Deborah Allison, Davey's wife, the problems continue on the racetrack. What did Davey say?
Well, something broke, but they don't know what it is right now, so they went in the garage area to try and find out what it was.
How has the family held up through the entire ordeal with your father-in-law, Bobby Allison?
We've been supporting each other, trying to help each other out, and just doing the best we can.
Bad luck like this doesn't help a bit to cheer things up, does it? That's Deborah Allison, frustrated as her husband pulls into the garage area.
Car number 5, as you saw coming to the line, a yellow flag has just come out, a caution flag as Davey Allison gets out, and Bodine has made up his lap. Davey Allison walking away from car number 28, the Harry Ranier car. Unfortunate moment for Davey Allison and for Harry Ranier and company.
Lucky break for Jeff Bodine, nosing ahead just at the last moment to get the lap back.
Very heads-up driving.
What that means to the uninitiated viewer is that the pace car would get in front of the actual leader of the race, who was right behind Jeff Bodine. He'll go clear around the track and get on the tail end of the lineup, picking up about 90. Here he is on his way around to get back to the tail end.
Bodine just coming across the start-finish line. Well, this Talladega Diehard 500 race summary is sponsored by Quaker State Motor Oil, where the big Q stands for quality. Always has and always will. As we're under caution once again with 91 laps complete here today. Back at 85 laps, here's how the standings look. Waltrip was then in front, Terry Labonte in second, Lake Speed in third, Mike Waltrip in fourth, Ken Schrader in fifth. Taking a look further back, Mark Martin was in sixth, having a great day. In the seventh spot, then was Davey Allison, followed by Phil Parsons, Cale in ninth, and Greg Sachs was in 10th. Had 12 different leaders, 17 official lead changes, and it's a very slow race today at 160.234. And 5 cautions for 16 laps have been unfurled with 3 cars out of the race. Rudd, Shepard, and now Davey Allison retiring with engine trouble. So that brings you up to date on the Talladega 500 from a statistical side. As we look down the back straightaway, you see Waltrip first now at 92 laps complete. Schrader second, Waltrip third, Parsons fourth, Terry Labonte fifth, Lake Speed sixth, Cale is seventh, Mark Martin eighth, Bobby Hill in ninth, and Rick Wilson 10th.
You know, 2 laps short of the halfway mark and only 3 cars out of the race is a tremendous testament to the people who build and maintain these cars. Incidentally, the yellow flag is for the oil that spilled out of Davey Allison's car on the back straightaway, and they get that mopped up.
Chris,
we'll have the green flag.
It's so easy to overstate these cases, and particularly for guys like you and I that grew up doing short track races and full of hyperbole, but this is really an outstanding event today.
It's one of the best stock car races, maybe the best of the year so far. And believe me, the series that I've been covering, what a refreshing change.
Here's Mike.
Ken, this is Davey Allison's car, and he's already out of it and gone up into the trailer. He's extremely overheated from the run here today. He won't get much rest, though. The cool suit in Mike Alexander's car has failed, and that's like driving down the road with your power steering going on. If it breaks, the car becomes very hard to steer. When your cool suit lets go, you become half again as hot as you would have been without it. So Alexander will have to come out of Bobby Allison's car, and Davey's been tapped as the relief driver. We'll catch up with him out on pit road in a few minutes.
Coming by, completing 93 laps as we work to the halfway point where there is a $10,000 bonus. That comes on lap 94 of this occasion.
And Ken, there are still 28 cars in the lead lap at the halfway point.
28? You sure you've counted right?
Yes, sir. That's really a lot of cars.
Absolutely incredible. We'll be back with more after this word from your local stations here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. This word from your local station. Back with you at Talladega, and after the midway point, 252 miles deep into the race, here's how they stand. Waltrip is in first, Schrader second, Michael Waltrip third, Phil Parsons fourth, Terry Labonte rides in fifth. In sixth is Lake Speed. Cale Yarborough is seventh. Mark Martin to eighth. Bobby Hillen is in ninth, and Rick Wilson is in 10th. Now, about that 10 grand, you've got to get that money under green net.
Yes,
so,
you can't pick it up by being the leader under the caution.
So the fifth lap after the green flag comes out is when somebody will be the recipient of a $10,000 additional prize.
Coasting and collecting is out, huh?
That's right.
Yep. And I'll guarantee you that every one of those drivers who are up there in position to get that money know about it too. Their crews have
out there in that Haviland Star Thunderbird though, because she was really running good, and I think we had a real good shot at winning the race. But we're not going to hold any grudges against that. We're just going to get ready for the next one and go try to get in.
Now here, the rap on the Fords has been that the Fords didn't run as well with the restrictor plate. Did you find it that way, or could you move up as long as you had somebody to go with?
Well, there's some Chevrolets out there that were definitely stronger, but we weren't giving up, and we thought we had something for them at the end of the race. We were just waiting until the end of the race to make a couple adjustments, and then we were going to be in great shape.
I guess the best news, we've been informed that this morning your dad left the hospital and is headed home.
Well, I'm not real sure about what's going on yet because everything's kind of been jumbled up, but we'll try to get this race over with, and then we'll go find out how everything's going.
Thanks, Davey. He'll climb in for Mike Alexander. There's a little bit of height difference. Does that concern you? He's the shortest guy here.
Well, I'm not real worried about that.
There's only a couple inches to separate them, so Davey should fit in the car pretty well.
Thank you, Mike. Waltrip first, Schrader second. Phil Parsons now pulls that black and white Oldsmobile up into third. Back to fourth goes Michael Waltrip, and in fifth is Lake Speed. Here are the leaders. 105 laps to be completed, this time by Waltrip, trying to be the first man to win the Talladega 500 3 times.
Kenny Schrader doesn't have as much drafting experience as a lot of drivers in this field, Ken, but he is doing a masterful job of drafting out there now. He's doing the right things that lets those two cars pull away from the rest of the field. He's staying close on Darrell. When he goes into a turn, he gets down just a little bit lower than Darrell. That's hard to do sometimes because Darrell runs so low on the racetrack. But he keeps his car down. If his car was going up, it would have a tendency to pull both cars up and to slow them down a little bit. So he is really doing a great job of drafting.
I'm just wondering the view that Ken Schrader has, the back end of Darrell Waltrip's car there. He'll know every little nuance of the back of that car.
Averaging 193 miles per hour here at the present time. The leader is Darrell Waltrip on our live coverage of the Talladega 500. With 108 laps complete here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, Ned Jarrett, Chris Economaki, yours truly, Ken Squire topside, Mike Joy, Dave Despain covering the action live here in the pits. And let's take a look now at the standings back at 104 laps. And they've stabilized for the moment pretty much. Waltrip leading, Schrader second, Parsons third, Michael Waltrip up to fourth, Lake Speed in fifth. The second five in the field is Terry Labonte running that sixth spot, followed by Rusty Wallace now in seventh, Rick Wilson in eighth, Dale Earnhardt in ninth, and Kyle Petty rounding out the top 10.
Ken, the interval between first and third last time around was 6.87 seconds. Now Waltrip and Ken Schrader are running away from the pack at the rate of 1.4 seconds a lap. They're building the interval when they have a clear track. They are going for the green.
Waltrip, the 79 and 82 champion, staying just in front of Missouri's Ken Schrader, but a change further back. In the third position at this point, in that big flock of automobiles, there you find a little different situation. And the man that's come up is the man in black, the only man to win this race twice back-to-back, the 1983 and 84 champion. Dale Earnhardt now finds himself running in third behind this pair. See them drawing away. Earnhardt coming along through the tri-oval is maintaining third with Phil Parsons in fourth. Then you see Mike Waltrip in fifth, Lake Speed in sixth. And here's Cale Yarborough. Cale Yarborough working away on car number 44. There's Bill Elliott trying to move in alongside of him. Remember that Cale at the present time being shown in 10th. He can look in his mirror and see the car number 9 of Elliott pulling up. There's Rick Wilson right there with him. Car number 4.
Cale picked up the draft of the car number 44 of Sterling Marlin and moved right on by the car number 4. That's the effect of the draft.
He whistled right by him. Bill Elliott, who was 28th a while ago, is now 13th.
Sterling Marlin in the 9th position. Cale now being shown 10th right behind him in that number 29 car.
See, I told you those fans were creating a little breeze by getting up and doing a little waving.
Yep. Flags, hats, shirts, whatever. Rusty Wallace having his problems now. Big crack. We got one car in trouble. Ken Reagan at number 77 sliding to a halt. Caution is out.
That is just off of, just as you enter pit road, as a matter of fact, is where he is. He's on pit road now, coming back down to the inside.
This is the break Wallace needs to get that windshield change. We'll see if they can do that in kind of in a decent span of time. And Davey Allison may take advantage of this stop to move in and replace Mike Alexander in his father's car.
And Bodine will get a chance to get back up into it here. Coming back to the line, Waltrip already on pit road, and here's the entire covey of cars coming in.
I don't believe they'll change the windshield on Rusty Wallace's car. I believe they'll need to get a little worse than that. Maybe they will. We'll just have to wait and see.
Let's stay with him for a moment and see what happens with Rusty Wallace.
Can they get a change?
Story of the point leader, car number 27.
Can they get a change, Ned, in one lap on the yellow?
Let's go down there right now.
Davey Allison, a quick word with crew chief Jimmy Fennig. What they've decided to do on this stop is change 4 tires and add gas. Send Mike Alexander around the track 1 lap to stay on that all-important lead lap of cars. And next time by, he'll drop off onto pit road and they will make the driver change.
That'll give Mike Alexander time to get his belts off and everything ready to jump out of the car without any delay.
Yeah, and it's pretty tough to change drivers with all the safety paraphernalia that they have to unhook the radios and all of those kind of things. And trying to do that when you're changing tires and servicing the car otherwise, it's almost impossible to do. So that's a good smart move on their part to do it in this manner.
Davey Allison about to step into his father's car. Let's talk for just a moment about the substitution of drivers in a race here. They can change drivers for qualified drivers in an event.
Yes, any driver who has made practice runs during the days leading up to an event can get in any car out there and drive. And of course, Davey Allison, as we know, started in the car number 28, had an engine problem, so he is eligible to get in any other car out there. One consideration, as Mike Joy pointed out, is the size of the drivers. So Davey is a little taller than Mike Alexander, but I'm sure that they'll make the adjustment and Davey will be able to fit in there okay. But as far as the points are concerned, now the points for this car will go to Mike Alexander. Davey would only earn points in the car that he started the race in.
112 laps will be complete this time by. Ken Reagan bringing out the caution is already back on the track, and I believe we can take another look at what happened to Ken Reagan. Turn 4.
Okay, as he comes off of turn 4, let's see where he is.
Driver change coming up. Let's follow this for just a moment, then we'll get back to that incident with Reagan.
But you saw Mike Alexander come out of the car, Davey Allison getting in it, and of course the crew reaching in the window to help hook up all the safety paraphernalia.
5-point seatbelt system.
Yes, it's very easy to get it loose because you just flip one, not a button, but one little tab there, whatever, and it's all loose. But you got to tie it all back together.
What if the safety harnesses are loose the driver's out there racing?
Well, they can tighten them. They can tighten the shoulder harness, and most of the drivers will, and even the seat belt. They'll pull on them, even when they're going down the straightaway to be sure that they're tight.
You can cinch it up easily.
Yes, you can. And when you go into the turns, you have so much G-force that it feels like that the shoulder harness, are falling off your shoulders because you're down in the seat so much. But then you hit the straightaway and it tightens up again. And so that will make the driver want to tighten them up because he feels them loose in the turns.
Tremendous cheer from the crowd as Davey Allison brings out his dad's colors here.
Wouldn't it be something if he'd go on and win this race?
Mike Alexander getting some oxygen here. See, he ran last night in a Grand National race.
Hampton, Virginia.
Second in points in that
Yes,
series.
now you can.
Running hard. Mike is with Mike Alexander right now.
Well, he looks really warm. Jimmy Fennick giving a little congratulations. Boy, do you look hot.
Well, it is. You know, it got awful hot yesterday. I don't know that I can do both. It's a Grand National deal in the Winston Cup. Need to concentrate probably on the Winston Cup. These guys work too hard. My guys work hard. I just hate to let them down this way, you know.
Well, now, what's that cool suit feel like if it stops working or stops giving you all that air conditioning?
Well, it's hot, pal, I tell you. I never knew how hot it could get in one of them race cars. I figured in Daytona it was pretty hot.
They said you got a little overheated in the race last night.
Yeah, we just didn't do any good in that race last night, and I really worked myself to death trying to keep up. I need to concentrate for these boys, I believe. They're working too hard for me. Car's capable of winning the race.
Well, good run today. You had a hard time trying to keep this thing on the lead lap with all that happened.
Well, I'll tell you, the hardest thing is to get out, Mike. These guys work too hard, and I'm kind of ashamed, but I'll make it up to them.
Thank you. That's Mike Alexander. And
Richard Petty has a saying about this, Dad. He says that you may give out, but you never give up.
Let's take a look at what happened to Ken Reagan right here in replay.
Okay, he was down on the inside and apparently lost it. He could have blown a tire. Gets down on the grass on the inside as the other cars go by. That's a long spin around and around. He hopes he doesn't hit the inside wall, but he does. Yeah. Hits with the right rear quarter panel. That's the reason for this caution.
And that would be the 6th caution of the day. We asked Davey Allison if he thinks of his father, Bobby, while driving.
When I see someone else crawling in his car or getting out of his car, that's when I think about it. It seems strange to see that number 12 down here with somebody besides Bobby Allison driving it. And that's tough to deal with sometimes. But, he's coming along real well, and that makes it a little bit easier to accept. Maybe he'll be back in there before too long.
That's what everybody wishes. Mike?
Well, let's get the latest word from Eddie Gossage, who's the spokesman for the Miller Brewing Company, and throughout this last 6 weeks has been the spokesman for the Allison family and the team. What is the latest on Bobby's recovery?
Mike, we've got some great news. Bobby checked out today from the hospital in Allentown, Pennsylvania. He has flown to Birmingham. He is now in a local hospital, Lakeshore Hospital, and he'll continue to go undergo physical therapy for the next couple of weeks at least.
Now, Eddie, give us an idea. He's made some remarkable recovery just in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, he has. 3 weeks ago I saw him, and I really don't know if he knew who I was. Last week I walked into his room, and he looked up and said, "Goose," which is what he's always called me. And we had a good conversation, so it's coming back to him, and we hope just a matter of time before we get him back out here. But, we'd be tickled if Davey could win this race in his dad's car today.
Do you think he'll be in that Savola Brothers car come Daytona?
I don't think it's fair to place a timetable on it. Only time will tell, but, Bobby Allison, he's going to be back in a race car eventually, I believe. So we'll just have to wait and see and keep our fingers crossed and, say our prayers.
And that's what everybody here along pit road in the garage area thinks, that if there's anybody that could come back, it is Bobby Allison.
Mike, I agree with you 100%. I raced against Bobby Allison towards the end of my racing career in the mid-'60s when he was just getting his start, and have been good friends with him over the years and seen his accomplishments. He's one of the toughest athletes that you'll ever find in any sport, and I believe that he will be back in racing again.
Well, the sentiment is correct. The number has changed. Go Davey Go is now number 12, his own car having retired, and it is Davey Allison subbing for Mike Alexander, subbing for Bobby Allison. And we mean subbing. We fully expect to see Bobby Allison, the leader of the Alabama gang, showing that steady hand which has been so masterful through so many Grand National and Winston Cup races over the year. That is just sensational news. Bobby Allison leaving the hospital in Pennsylvania, coming back to the Birmingham area. Couldn't have it better than that, Chris.
You know, when he went into that hospital, the hospital didn't realize what a magnificent following Bobby Allison has. They had to put on extra telephone operators. They had to rearrange their visiting schedule. They said it looked like a garden center. There were so many flowers and so forth, and get well messages sent up there for Bobby Allison. Nice to know that he's back home.
And Judy and the rest of the family wants to thank all of the fans out there for their prayers and their support, the cards and the letters and everything during this very difficult period for them.
They put out a wonderful advertisement in many of the racing publications over the past week to thank all the fans and said there's no way we can do it, so we ask God to thank you for us. Here's Dale Earnhardt leading in this Talladega 500, now 115 laps deep this afternoon. It has been an incredible race. It's been fun to watch. The competition, just marvelous. And the restrictor plate, which is not a favorite subject with many of the competitors, has turned this into an event which has had them wheel to wheel and shown the precision driving which these people are so capable of, and which is the history of them on short tracks. They've really turned this into a short track type of event. Green is out as they take 116. Schrader is right behind car number 3, Earnhardt, as they dice into turn number 1.
Southern driver leading, and 2 Midwesterners in second and third places in this race right now.
Here comes Waltrip back there in the orange car, tried to move under Wallace, and Wallace closed the gate.
Yes, he did. He moved right down on in Waltrip's groove where he normally runs on the inside.
Earnhardt out in front. He too trying to be the first man to win this race 3 times. Ken Schrader, who has never finished better than 11th, that in his first year here in 1985. And here comes Rusty Wallace closing ground. Cracked windshield and all. That doesn't seem to be a factor at all.
Not at this point. If it doesn't get any worse than that, it won't affect his performance here this afternoon.
And he is definitely on the close.
Well, he has Darrell Waltrip right on his back bumper, and they're picking up and drafting together.
Now here's the test of whether Waltrip has the horsepower and the ability to get by Wallace. And up until this caution flag, he could have done that. Doesn't seem as though he can now.
Waltrip in 4th, right there.
Right on his back bumper. They are picking up the leaders, drafting together. They are gaining on Dale Earnhardt and Kenny Schrader.
Waltrip hitchhiking with Wallace. Now pulls out alongside and goes for 3rd.
Boy, he's got power.
Gone. Randy Dorton and company, they put the engine together in that one.
Wallace
Look at him go to 2nd.
Wallace looked over his left shoulder and actually was surprised to see him go by, I think.
Well, I'll tell you, that car is very, very strong. Look at him. He's going to take the measure of Earnhardt here in a moment with ease.
Back to the lead, Darrell Waltrip.
See Earnhardt ducked down in there so as not to get dropped to 3rd. Right in. He's a Sharpie.
I tell you, this reminds me of, I think it was 82. And he won, what, 107 of 108 laps in this 188 lap
Something
race.
like that.
I mean, he really put on a show that year. And he still had to fight it out in the last lap, but he dominated.
I bet you Darrell Waltrip would much prefer to have Rusty Ken Schrader in his mirror than Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, I would think so, because they had pulled away from the field and were gradually building a big lead before this last caution came out. And Darrell liked the way that Ken Schrader was drafting on him. Not that he might not like Earnhardt, but he knows Earnhardt can be a little more intimidating back there.
Ned, you were mentioning earlier about Schrader's inexperience in drafting, but he's been masterful out here today. He hasn't put a wheel outside of the line at all. He stayed right in the draft, right in the way, ridden it perfectly. He has ducked out, taken in some air, pulled it back in another time when he needed to.
Yes, he has. He's done all the right things. And it looks like Bill Elliott might be having some problems. The car number 9 slowed as he went into turn 1. He was running in the deep pack of cars that were running for the 3rd or 4th, 5th, and 6th positions, and Elliott just all of a sudden dropped down to the inside of the racetrack.
Back to about 19th or 20th spot, bottom of the racetrack, out of turn 2. Look at this gaggle of cars continuing to squabble out here for that 3rd position. Just incredible racing. 4th position.
If Elliott's in trouble, why, this is a great break for Wallace in the point standing leading to the national championship.
I'll tell you who
very
else
close in the tally.
I'll tell you who else seems to be in trouble. I think Michael Waltrip has slowed down. I thought I saw him coming in slowly. Jeff Hammond, crew chief.
Yeah, well, Michael Waltrip is coming into the pits right now, so car that had run very well here today. Been up in the top 5 there for a while.
Ran second for a while. Michael Waltrip on pit road. Meanwhile, the 3 leaders through lap 120. Reagan's in. There's Mike Waltrip's car down. Looks like a tire problem, and he's away.
Yeah, he's going to have to hurry to not go a lap down. He has made a good pit stop, and the leaders are coming off at turn 4 as Michael Waltrip comes down pit road. However, they have the luxury of drafting, and they have their speed up, so it's going to be close as to whether Michael Waltrip goes a lap down or not.
Well, there he goes down toward turn number 1, and here come the leaders through the tri-oval, and they may take him down very shortly here. Meanwhile, Bodine is blocked onto the back of Parsons. 4th and 5th, and there are those 3 leaders going down into turn 1, right at the bottom of the track. And note that Waltrip went down, but everybody else did too. They all have that capability with those Chevrolets of running the low side, the short way around the racetrack.
Oh, that's great racing. Back in the pack, Davey Allison and his father's car is up to 22nd position now.
Phil Barkdahl is currently 10th, his best finish ever.
Probably take Davey a little bit of time to get used to the setup on that car. That's a front steer car on the car number 12 that Bobby Allison has perhaps done more to help design and work with over the years than any other driver. I believe that Davey, on the Fords that he runs, I think they are rear steer. Not a great deal of difference in the way the car feels, but a little bit of difference in the way that it handles in the turns.
Barkdahl had finished 22nd here in 1985. He was 10th on that restart. Look at this. Down to the inside comes Earnhardt. We're going to have a squabble right to the finish to decide the Talladega 500. This Talladega Diehard 500 race summary is sponsored by Quaker State Motor Oil, where the big Q stands for quality. 12 different leaders, 23 lead changes. Slow Talladega 500 at 154.520. And you see the reason right there. 6 cautions for 23 laps. Only 4 of 42 cars have retired from this race. And they are Rudd, Shepard, Davey Allison, and Joe Rutten. Davey Allison is now subbing in his father's car, number 12, and is currently being shown in 20th position overall in the event. Report on Mike Waltrip next.
Ken, it's the first indication of tire trouble we've really seen today, but for the blown tire that put Morgan Shepherd in the wall. Mike Waltrip's left rear tire had a tread separation, throws it way out of balance, and his car came into pit lane. Here's Dave Despain.
Bill Elliott had a great opportunity here today. He was qualified 8th on the field with a strong car. Rusty Wallace, the point leader, was way in the back with a car that didn't look very good. Wallace leading by just 3 points over Elliott in the standings. But now, caution on the racetrack. Elliott has a broken valve spring. Ken?
Well, still another caution coming out here today. This race winds its way toward conclusion in a very slow manner. This will be the 7th caution of the afternoon here at the Talladega 500. None of them, thank goodness, have been for any serious incidents. The most serious has been the Ken Reagan situation. We see Mike Waltrip skirting around those leaders in a hurry, trying to get a lap back. I think he's going to do just that and get back with that lead pack.
He will as they come into the pits. That'll allow him to cross the start-finish line ahead of them, as Rusty Wallace did earlier, so that will let him get his lap back. Very heads-up driving by Michael Waltrip. There's debris on the back stretch, the reason for this particular caution.
So it will bring the field all back together another time as Wallace comes in. Car number 27. What a charge he has put on. But we've seen his car being handled by this number 17, by the 3 car of Earnhardt, the 25, being driven this afternoon by Schrader.
Waltrip certainly in and out quick on this yellow flag.
There's Davey Allison's number 12 that had been in 20th up in this lead lap. Rusty Wallace away. Oh, slipping around Richard Petty's number 43, which had been shown in 19th on our last rundown. So, caution again is the story here with 127 of 188 laps complete in the 20th running of the $500,000 Talladega 500. Well, later this afternoon, following our Talladega 500 live here in Alabama, it's the Buick Open. Scott Verplank continuing to lead. Stay tuned for the action there. Pat Summerall, Ken Venturi to bring you the story from Michigan of the Buick Open here on CBS later today. here in the Talladega 500. Guess who's out in front? None other than car number 14. Under this caution, Supertex. A.J. Foyt goes into first place. There he is. Darrell Waltrip is in second. Ken Schrader is in third. Been a while since we've seen A.J. up in front.
That's right. He's been driving a lot this year in all forms of racing, and I believe this is the first time he's led a NASCAR race this year. And of course, this yellow flag going doesn't seem to be up to the old Foyt form, unfortunately. 4 times a winner of the Indy 500, and looking for number 5 when 1989 rolls around.
Here's Mike Joy.
Well, they're a bit happier here in the Mike Waltrip pit as he got his lap back on that caution flag. This is one of 9 teams using a pit management race system set up by Nova Computer Systems out of Nashville, Tennessee. James Graves is operating this terminal for the Mike Waltrip team. Here are the individual lap times for each lap. We're at lap 129. This lap is running. It's a caution flag lap. That last pit stop for gas took 5.1 seconds, so it's now been 2 laps since they've pitted. On the right side tires, they have 17 laps. The left sides have been on there for 9 laps. Their next pit stop should come about lap 174. They can go 44.4 laps on a tank of fuel. Race lap total 188. They're getting almost 6 miles to the gallon, and they keep a running chart of incidents that happened during the race. After the race ends, they can match this up with a videotape, play back the whole race and their progress throughout. 9 teams along pit road today are using this system. Here's Dave Despain.
Hold the phone on the Bill Elliott diagnosis. They thought it was a valve spring. They've seen some of that problem before. Dan Elliott, not the diagnosis.
Not the diagnosis. We came in, found the plug wire off, got the plug wire back on. He's out, so it seems okay. So we want to get started here and see how she goes.
Here's a team that's right in contention for the $500,000 championship, and you've been hung up today by a $2 lug nut and a $4 plug wire. You got to be a little unhappy.
I can't wait to see what's next, but as long as we can overcome all the problems and finish the race, I'll be happy.
And that is the key to winning championships. That's Dan Elliott. Bill Elliott has a strong race car again, but again, he's clear at the back.
Beach time here in Alabama.
That's right. I tell you, that's a suntan prospect right there.
Car number 12, Davey Allison.
Right behind Bill Elliott, so it's
much nicer way to spend the afternoon there.
Yeah. Watermelon in the south. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Beautiful day, and we're ready for a restart here. Heat just hangs heavy over this Alabama International Motor Speedway, as with 129 complete of 188, A.J. Foyt has appropriated the first spot. Darrell Waltrip second. Then the number 25, that deep maroon car of Ken Schrader, Sterling Marlin fourth. I thought one of the classiest things done here is the Sears people are sponsoring this race for the first time. And they changed the announcement prior to the start of the race and dedicated the event to Bobby Allison.
That was very nice.
Nice gesture on their part. Coming down for green. And Darrell is in a real hurry to say bye-bye to AJ. Pulls up, he looked at him on the outside, now comes to the inside as they go to turn number 1, and once again Waltrip cuts her low and cuts her loose.
Well, I'll tell you, that car just accelerates so well. No one has a chance when he has some open ground in front of him. He just motors on.
Pulling up on the outside there, you see Schrader. Let's see if he'll take the shot going into turn 3. I would presume that he would. Indeed he does. And he draws with him.
Yeah, he'll want to try to get up to Waltrip as quickly as he possibly can. There's Phil Parsons. Phil running very good. Schrader got a little high as he went into that turn. Now, maybe this last set of tires won't keep him down on the inside. We don't know. We'll just have to see. He went in there awfully fast, though, because he had the draft of Waltrip going into the turn.
Schrader drawing a crowd along. Go up after number 17. There's Phil Parsons right there. Sterling Marlin in the 4th spot. Earnhardt watching to the inside in 5th, and Terry Labonte is back there in 6th. It's live from Alabama International Motor Speedway. One of the fun events we get to bring you every year. This has always been dramatic, but this year, with these restrictor plates on this track, it's made the driving intense. The competition door handle to door handle, so to speak.
Really, A.J. Foyt took the green restart flag leader. He's back in 10th place now. Shows how quick things change here.
To the lead, Schrader. And here comes Parsons. Parsons on the Superspeedway has done no worse than 3rd this year. He's looking good. Earnhardt, defending champion.
There's the story. You get out of line and you go backwards. Look at Schrader's back to 4th now, going to 5th, and perhaps to 6th.
Yep, get down on that inside or get out of line either way, whether it's on the inside or the outside. They'll just motor right past you. There's not a thing in the world you can do about it either.
You know, it's what Rusty Wallace said in his interview earlier. You got to think about every move you make.
And there's Rusty Wallace, right up behind Mark Martin, who is also having a dandy day.
Now you see on the inside, Jeff Bodine has caught up to Ken Schrader. Now they might be able to work together there on the inside and at least maintain the speeds that the others are running.
Back they come out of turn number 4 to complete 133 laps this time. A tremendous cluster of cars battling for the lead here. Waltrip in the favored spot. Phil Parsons second, Earnhardt third. As they come to the line, 4th spot is Marlin, 5th is Schrader, 6th Labonte, 7th Bodine, 8th on the inside is Rusty Wallace.
The last time I saw a car as dominant as this number 17 was Bill Elliott in the 85 Daytona 500. This is some machine, they were saying, this washing machine that Darrell Walton's driving today.
Well, he's hung the rest of the field out to dry thus far. The question is, can he continue in that manner, Chris? Back straight away, and Phil Parsons edges ever closer to his 2nd Winston Cup victory. I think he's been hiding in the weeds some of today. He stayed right there in 2nd and 3rd. Now he's really to show that he's ready to go. Back he comes through the tri-oval, banked 18 degrees. When you walk down it, you think about what the 33-degree banking must be. It really gives you the sensation of steepness here in the tri-oval. Cale Yarborough's car, number 29, being shown as 11th. Looking at Rusty Wallace.
Well, our front row starter, Sterling Marlin, who has really not been a factor in the race until now, is in the top 5, lying 4th in car 44.
Now from that camera up under the front bumper, here goes Cale down to the inside. Looks like he's got Rusty Wallace going into 3.
Yeah, he picked up a draft and just moved right on around there for a moment.
And we wonder if his windshield is that cloudy or is that our camera lens. We had a great driver years ago who wore thick glasses, and every time the track got dusty, it looked as though he sped up. And the reason was he couldn't see the dust. Everybody else was slowing down, and he was going at the same speed.
Well, you see, that's that bumper camera all the way down to the ground, about 4 inches up. Gives you a sensational idea of what's happening. Here's Rusty Wallace, and it looks like Wallace may be sliding back a little. 88 Buddy Baker's back in the hunt again, playing it well.
He and Cale Yarborough have hooked up in a draft up there, trying to gain on some of the cars in front of them.
It's called a senior draft, right?
Yes.
Phil Parsons running right here with the leaders, coming down out of turn number 4 in 2nd spot behind Waltrip. Won his first ever Winston Cup race here at Talladega in May. The question to him was how it felt to record that very first win.
This is something that I've wanted to do for 25 years. Vinny started a race when I was about 5 years old, and it's all I ever wanted to do was drive a race car. And anything I did previous to this, as far as racing goes, it was to get to this point. And to finally get there was like, you know, there's several feelings I felt. Relief by finally winning a race, you know, the world off my shoulders because we finally won a race. And I don't, other than my little girl being born, there's nothing I've ever felt that come close to this.
And a man who shared in that win is Leo Jackson, the team manager. Now, a minute ago, you told him on the radio, if it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it. What were you talking about, leading this race?
Well, you know, it's a little hotter now than it was in April. He's finding it a little more difficult. Track is slick. In fact, he just told me, he said, I'm having to hold my breath in every corner.
Do you want him in the draft, or do you want him out front if he can get there?
Well, he's right where I want him.
He's in the lead right now.
Oh, he?
Okay, he'll go back to watching his driver. Phil has gone to the front.
Back straightaway, Schrader inching his way along on the inside of that 2-car draft with Bodine. And those Hendrick cars, look at them, all stacked up on the bottom of the racetrack. First the 17, then the 25, now the 5 takes the higher line. Waltrip going back into first, Phil Parsons falling to second, Schrader in third, Earnhardt in fourth, Bodine in fifth as they come down out of 4. Looks like it's going to be just some kind of finish here this afternoon to finish this dramatic 500. We'll return with more live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500 after this word from your local station. The Talladega Diehard 500 is sponsored by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? The Diehard battery from Sears. And by Goodyear Eagle Tires, because there really is a difference. Taking a look at the leaderboard right now, Darrell Waltrip in first, Phil Parsons is second, Ken Schrader holding third, Dale Earnhardt is fourth, Jeff Bodine is fifth. And taking a look at the second five out here, Sterling Marlin is showing sixth, Labonte seventh, Bobby Hillen is in eighth, Rick Wilson is in ninth, Mark Martin is in the 10th position. Here are the leaders, and the whole story is up in front. You always want to go back and get those stories further back in the field, but Ned, this is not the day. The story has been right up there in front in these top 10 positions all afternoon.
There is so much good racing going on all over the racetrack, and particularly up for the first 10 or so positions. It's just hard to move away from those. You can see some of that going on right there as they battle trying to go in 3 deep, but decides not to do that. Let's go to the pits and Mike Joy.
Well, Ned, I'm in the garage. Ron Esau in the Buddy Arrington car. Ron, what are you doing in here?
Well, the panel switcher car just had the side window blow out. We didn't have a replacement. We're trying to get something put back in so I can get it out and get some more experience.
This is Buddy Arrington's car, and they're a little bit underfunded here. This right side window is an aerodynamic vise to prevent the cars from flipping at speed at Daytona and Talladega. They built one, but they didn't have the time or resources to bring down a spare. So this window's been taken from another race car. Joey Arrington and the crew hastily applying it, trying to get the West Coast drivers some more track time here at Talladega.
Ron Esau, a West Coast driver, wanting to make it big on the Winston Cup circuit. This is his first run here at Talladega. He was doing a good job up until he had that misfortune.
Interval getting to be fairly good size from fourth back to the fifth place car, number 5 Bodine. Number 1 Dale Jarrett scooting around the outside, picking another spot up.
He's been running on 7 cylinders since about the 100-mile mark.
You know, this race has been so close and so hard fought that the leader has never had a chance to settle down. Right now, Darrell Waltrip is turning laps at almost 194 miles an hour, and it's been that way since the green flag dropped, with the exception, of course, of the yellow flag period. This is the hardest fought race for the lead I can remember seeing in a long time.
They certainly have to go flat out to stay up there, no doubt about that. And Ken, as you mentioned, those 4 cars beginning to pull away a little bit, as we saw a lot of the others back there running for the 5th position, running side by side earlier. Now they've decided maybe we need to get in a straight line before that foursome gets too far out in front of us. And that foursome, there's about to be a change for second place.
Indeed, Schrader is on the inside, going wheel to wheel with Phil Parsons in the number 55.
And you noticed how Walter pulled down to the inside. He saw Schrader coming. He would like for Schrader to be the man up there on his back bumper. He moved down to the inside, so hopefully Schrader would pick up his draft, but he was not able to do it.
And Earnhardt comes to third.
And on in the back, Bill Elliott, who was 29th a while ago, has just moved into the top 10, and he's on the move.
Front 4 come around a complete 144 of 188 laps this time by. Back in 5th, Bodine still leads that pack. And there is Richard Petty a little further back in the pack. Richard Petty being shown currently as 19th. We asked Richard Petty about the uncharacteristically poor season he's had thus far in 1988.
I don't think we've really had a whole lot worse season. You know, we've tore up 5 race cars and totaled out 3 of them, just completely totaled them out. The other 2 we was able to fix back, and it's just been really a bad deal. We got started off bad at Daytona, and you know, run pretty good the next race, and then we crashed again. It's just been up and down all deal. In the last 4 or 5 races, we've run real good, and then something happens to the car. So at least we're not hitting anything right now.
Struggling through a tough season, but still loving races as much as always, celebrating his 30th year in the sport, the great Richard Petty. 60 Minutes is here, getting to prepare a feature about Richard Petty. I asked him about it. He said, yeah, sooner or later they catch up with all of us bad guys.
Brett Bodine has had a little bit of a problem with his car, number 15. Brett had been running in the lead lap, but the windshield came out of his car or bursted. Anyway, he's in the pits having to replace that.
Now look at this swap around. Here's Earnhardt up into second. Schrader in third. Phil Parsons in fourth. 'Tis indeed, to quote, caution is out. Caution is on the track. Oil from car number 10, Greg Sachs.
I think it's Dale Jarrett in car number 1. Dale's been running on 7 cylinders since about the 40 lap mark, and apparently just the engine gave up on it.
8th caution of the day. How close will this get us to the end of the race on fuel range, Ned?
Yeah, the number 10.
Kenny Bouchard's car.
Bouchard. Engine helped spill some oil now.
The Whitcomb Racing Stable out of New Hampshire having trouble here.
You know, it's interesting. There's 42 laps left in the race. 40 you can get on a tank full. So some of these drivers, if they want to make this their last, may stay out until the very end before they make their stop.
Yeah, I'd say it's going to be awfully close if they can go the rest of the way. However, they do get better fuel mileage with the carburetor restrictor plates than they do, of course, without them. And there is smoke coming from the car number 10 of
They put a
Ken
black flag
Bouchard.
on him.
Yeah. We have word that Mike Alexander may be getting back in the car number 12. We'll be there, of course, if that happens, as we see all the leaders come into pit. And there is Mike Alexander, ready to go back in that car. And it could be that maybe Davey just simply is not fitting that well in it. And Mike has had a chance to get some oxygen, get cooled off a little bit, so he might go back in. We'll let you know.
One of the drivers who got in and out quickly was Brett Bodine. We haven't heard much from him.
Let's go to Mike Joy.
Getting the window net down, removing the steering wheel to help Davey Allison get out of that car. Mike Alexander's back in, and here's a cold drink waved off by Davey, and he just wants a seat and sort of waved us off. Mike is okay to get back into the car now. He has removed his cool suit. That was the problem. It was not functioning. So now without it, with just his regular fireproof driver's suit, he'll be a little cooler. And Davey was feeling the effects of the heat just a bit in his own car. And now that he's out of this machine, take a pause to get his breath.
Field organizing one more time with 147 laps complete here. Ken Schrader for the moment the leader.
Oh, Brett Bodine was in for 2 minutes and 18 seconds to replace a windshield. He's about ready to renew with that team for another 3 years. We'll be back for more of the Talladega 500 after these messages.
This Talladega Diehard 500 race summary is sponsored by Quaker State Motor Oil, where the big Q stands for quality. Standings at 147 laps completed the 188. Schrader first, Wallace second, Rick Wilson's Olds in third, Jeff Bodine's Chevy in fourth, Mike Waltrip back to fifth. Showing in the second 5, Bobby Hillen is there, the 86 winner, Darrell Waltrip, 2-time winner, Dale Earnhardt, a 2-time winner, Bill Elliott, defending champion, and Sterling Marlin. In the race summary, 14 leaders, 27 lead changes, and we're eking along at 150 miles per hour, well off the record. 8 cautions, 28 laps, none of them for serious incidents thus far in the running of this $500,000 event. And there's the most interesting statistic of all. 42 cars started the event, and only 5 have retired.
Make that 6 now. Dale Jarrett's car has just been pushed behind the wall.
Dave Despain standing by with Harry Hyde.
From interesting statistics, let's go to interesting characters. Harry Hyde, one of the legends in this game, has won 55 of these races, and it looks to me like you just rolled the dice trying to win your 56th Winston Cup race here today. Tell me about your pit stop.
Well, our pit stops has been up and down. We've had some bad ones, we've had some good ones, but we're gassed and going this time. The tires look real good, David. They look like they'll go all the way. We've had beautiful tire wear. These Goodyear tires have just done a wonderful job today. Couldn't ask for a better tire.
You got plenty of gas to get to the finish.
We're no problem now. If, we don't have no bad luck, we can go for the finish.
Here's the question. We know that Waltrip and Schrader in that order can run away from this field. We saw them do that before. If you turn that around and put your guy in front, can they run that way to the finish?
Well, I don't know. I'll have to see. This is the first chance we've had to look at it, so I'll have to see myself. We're going to try to hold the lead, and if we can't, we'll try to fall in on Waltrip and finish in second place. We'll be glad to get second if we can't have first.
Just one more now. In general, these cars will run more than 100 miles on a tank of fuel now, won't they, with the restrictors?
Right, yes. Most of them will run more than 100 miles.
So everybody should be in good shape, would you expect?
I don't see anybody having to stop for fuel.
Well,
Just, if there'd be a tire problem or somebody cuts one down or has a flat, is the only thing I think bring him in the pit.
Okay, my friend, thank you for your time. There's a guy that ought to know. Harry Hyde's been around this business 40 years. Ken?
With guys like Buddy Baker and the great Bobby Isaac. Well, we'll be back with more of our live coverage here as we get set for the finish of the 20th annual Talladega 500 after these messages.
Davey Allison has had a couple of rides today, and kind of like rolling up the windows, putting the full heat on, and having you ride around Alabama.
Well, I had a couple vents in my car in the cool suit, and I didn't have to use the cool suit very much in my car, but this car didn't have any vents in it and no cool suit either, so it's pretty hot in there. You know, they just didn't anticipate the heat for Mike today, and it's working on him, and it worked on me pretty hard, too.
Okay, well, glad you're okay. How many pounds do you think you lost today?
I guarantee I've lost at least 8 or 10 pounds, but first thing I want to say is hi to Mom and Dad wherever they are.
Okay, thanks, Davey.
Let's see if we can raise Cale Yarborough, who's having a grand day. He is running the lead lap 14th. Cale, do you read us? Cale Yarborough, Ken Squires, CBS Central, do you read us? Well, you're having a pretty good day after all the misfortune of this year. You must feel pretty good about this race.
Yeah, Ken, the car is running good and handling good. It's just so many cars doing the same thing. It's hard to pick the spot. But, you know, when we got the 40-some laps left now, we got to do what we got to do now.
Go for it, Cale. Win one for the old people.
I wonder how hot he is in there.
The heat never seems to bother him. After the race, he always looked like a cooked lobster, but during the race, that's Mr. Determination.
Oh, he's always been one of the strongest drivers on the circuit, and certainly one of the most determined.
24 cars in the lead lap. Record is 17. Rusty Wallace up there in second place as we get set for the start. Green flag coming out. Rick Wilson third, Bodine fourth, Hill in fifth. Darrell Waltrip in sixth, Earnhardt seventh, Bill Elliott eighth, Marlin ninth as they go into turn one. Buddy Baker back in 10th. We look down, it's Mark Martin 11th, Phil Parsons 12th, Lake Speed 13th, Cale 14th, Alan Kowicki 15th, Mickey Gibbs 16th. Field is away.
And Mr. Waltrip has started to come back alongside of Jeff Bodine there. He's all alone on the inside.
Well, he sure gets a bite on the bottom of that racetrack. Here comes Wallace on the outside. The Harry Hyde car. Dave Despain just talking with crew chief Harry Hyde, who has this Ken Schrader car in the lead. Here's Rusty Wallace.
And you notice the 25 of Ken Schrader pulled to the inside. He sees Waltrip trying to come up on the inside of car number 27, and he's wanting him to pick his draft up.
That was a mistake on Rusty's part by moving out there. Gave Waltrip the room he needed.
And 4 cars dive underneath here. Trying to find a way to sneak back in comes Rusty Wallace. And he has it here. Back to 5th, Wallace after running second. And notice again that Rick Wilson in the number 4 car is in the 6th. 3 cars wide with Baker on the bottom. And number 17 going for the lead another time. It's Darrell Waltrip in first, Earnhardt in second. Back to 3rd goes Schrader.
That car is very, very strong today. It's handling very well, and it has plenty of horsepower. And I'm talking about the car number 17 of Darrell Waltrip.
What a ton of speed sounds like as it hurtles underneath you here.
It's a great speed shed. You can almost feel the ground shake when they come by.
Bodine in a good position in 4th. And Wilson, who will mix it up with anybody, as he proved in Daytona at the Firecracker 400, on the end of that string in 6th position. Well, we keep seeing great races. We keep talking about this series as the most competitive, and they keep proving it, Chris.
That's true. Not a soul has left this racetrack today. Everybody's not only watching, but with their binoculars, as we just saw, and cheering when their favorite takes over the lead. Now, Rick Hendrick got 3 cars in the top top 4 places here. What an operation this man has.
And notice that car number 88 has come to 7th. Buddy Baker is on a roll, former winner here. Buddy Baker in number 88 is about 3 car lengths back from that 6th place car. And he is beginning to wind him in.
That's right. One of my New Jersey neighbors, Danny Schiff, is co-owner of this car with Buddy Baker. And what a party he'll throw if Buddy can pull it off today.
55, Parsons goes to the outside. He wants to do some running up there. Baker down low.
Well, Parsons definitely has one of the fastest cars if he can just get track position. He finds himself back in the pack. Maybe they spend a little extra time in the pits trying to get every ounce of gasoline they could in the car so they would be sure to make it to the end of the race.
Baker getting left out of the draft both high and low there from a bit of a vacuum, and he has to tuck back in, find somebody to hitchhike with. Up in front, this is what it looks like with 155 and 188 laps complete. Well, that's a new system for cooling off. Here comes Waltrip out in front. Earnhardt in 2nd. Schrader is in 3rd. Bodine is in 4th as they try to single it out. Waltrip crew. Very relaxed.
How much inter-team rivalry do you think there is on those 100 cars, those 3 cars that are there?
I think there's quite a bit of rivalry.
Tremendous rivalry.
Yes, I think so. I think they try as hard to beat each other as they do to beat the other teams out there.
And perhaps harder.
They're in separate garages, have separate crew chiefs, and distinctly separate in every respect. Nothing out of the same garage.
Except for one thing, they pool the kids. The kids all play together all week long. They've all been in the pool together. Dale Jr.'s been in there, mixing it up with Barry Dotson's son, who's part of the Rusty Wallace team. There's about 4 of those kids, and they transcend all the competition. They come in there, and of course these days they find a little more liberty for them to get in with their dads and see what's going on in the garage area. But they're all good buddies, and they swap the babysitting chores around among them. Earnhardt had them all for one night, took them out to the go-kart course, and the next night they all went to the movies. Quite a deal taking the kids on the road.
I think the only common thing that they might have as far as the race teams are concerned is that the engines and the car 25 and 17 are built by the same group of people, Randy Dorton and Kenny Bingham and those people.
There you see the leaders tightly gathered up. This could be the most dramatic finish yet. I think back to 81 and that Bouchard finish when he came from nowhere and shot down to the bottom coming through the tri-oval, feeding Waltrip and Labonte. I wonder if we're getting set for something like that again this afternoon, Chris.
Well, here we see Bill Elliott. We saw him on the high side of the racetrack. He's not out of this thing yet. Once they found that plug wire off, they got it back on, and his Ford's running good again.
I thought this morning that this would be Waltrip's race, but I've got to tell you, the way these guys are all hanging on to him now, I wouldn't want to put a nickel on this one at-all. Look at Bodine beginning to try the outside and he finds Earnhardt out there. He can get in a draft with him, he'll pick up some spots.
And that 55 car, Phil Parsons, comes right on back up to the front.
We'll be back with more and the finish of the Talladega 500 in just a moment. Two-time Talladega 500 winner Darrell Waltrip is leading now here this afternoon with Dale Earnhardt just about 3 feet behind him. Jeff Bodine is in 3rd, Ken Schrader is 4th, and Phil Parsons maintains the 5th position. Those are the front 5, and let's right now get a report from the pits.
I'm standing with Richard Childress, the car owner for Dale Earnhardt and a former driver himself. This was your first Winston Cup start right here, but today it seems like this is a whole different ball game than 1969.
Yeah, a lot of things have changed in the sport. This was a year that they boycotted in '69, and I was running the Grand American race, and I ran this race here. So I enjoy coming here and enjoy racing.
So you've run here a lot, but what can you tell your driver right now? He's in 2nd place. Is that where you want him?
Well, he's only one that knows now. We haven't been talking about who's stronger, him or Darrell or who, but Darrell looks good. There's several cars that look real good, but I think we'll be right there with him.
Now, how about your crew here on pit road? We have our handy-dandy thermometer, and in the sun, it is 110 degrees.
It's hot. You know, we all just been trying to stay as cool as we can, putting water on us or whatever. So we'll be ready. We'll be ready if it comes down to the end for whatever we need to do.
Has Lou LaRosa put enough horsepower under that hood for Dale to get by, Darrell?
Well, he's done real good. The whole shop has. You know, we improved the car. Last time we were here in May, we got it crashed. This time, the whole engine shop, Lou LaRosa, they've improved the engine.
Something's happened to number 17.
And something's happened to Waltrip's car.
Waltrip just coming off the pace. Slowing down on the inside of the track.
Waltrip is not a favorite here at Talladega, and the crowd is cheering the fact that it appears as though he's in trouble.
We're still under green. There is no caution out. Whatever it was internal in number 17, and Earnhardt takes over in first. Earnhardt to first, Bodine to second. Here's Dave Despain.
Darrell Waltrip comes on pit road crew over the wall quickly. Their chance of victory gone. They want to salvage the best they can out of it now. They're going into the carburetor. The initial indications were that it might be ignition, but now they're going under the air box to try to find the problem. Now they're going down to the rotor button. It looks like it will be in the distributor, and they had to get that air cleaner off to make way. An ignition problem apparently for Darrell Waltrip.
One of the crew members inside, maybe to switch it over. They do have an alternate ignition system, so they'll change it over to that as well as change the rotary button.
1 lap down.
Well, if anybody ever deserved to win a race today, it's Darrell Waltrip. Look at that look on his face.
He flat had them covered for most of the afternoon. But you got to be there at the finish. Awfully disappointing.
Look at the fatigue.
I want to go talk to him. I'm going to go talk to him.
Earnhardt first, Bodine second.
So now, can that twosome, the threesome of Waltrip in there had pulled away from the rest of the field. Can the twosome continue to do it? Bill Parsons leading the pack for third place. They're about perhaps 2 seconds behind.
And with him comes Buddy Baker in fourth, Sterling Marlin in fifth, Rick Wilson sixth, Cale in seventh, Mark Martin eighth, Rusty Wallace ninth, Bill Elliott 10th. Leaders, the Richard Childress Racing Stable, going for his third win of the year. Dale Earnhardt, Bodine, hungry for a win, and that number 5. And we all know the stories about Earnhardt and Bodine. It's been an ongoing soap opera throughout 1988, 87. No love lost here at all between these two. To the point where they took them both to Daytona.
Right. Had a dinner with them and told them to be good boys for the rest of the season.
Or else.
Most of the troubles that have happened between these two have happened when Earnhardt was behind Bodine. The situation is reversed now.
Well, Benny Parsons' great line at Daytona the year that Dale ran out of fuel and lost that race. He said, I was just sitting there. He said, I knew that if Earnhardt and Bodine came out of turn 4 battling for first place in the Daytona 500, I was going to pick up 2 positions. Here's an update on Darrell Waltrip.
As the work continues on Darrell Waltrip's car, it was not an easy fix. A rotor button is an easy fix. You pop the old one out, you pop the new one back in. As Ned mentioned, backup ignition systems in place on the car. They have tried everything. They are now replacing completely the distributor on the car. Nothing they have tried has worked, and now there's concern that it might in fact be the cam which drives the distributor, that indeed it might not be an ignition problem, but an internal engine problem. The component that drives the ignition system may be the root of the evil, and in any case, Darrell Waltrip is not going to be around at the finish, or if he is, he'll be far downfield.
When an engine just shuts off all of a sudden, as apparently his did, the first thing that you think about is that it's a rotor button, because as Dave said, that's the easiest thing to change. But it can be a timing chain brake or a camshaft brake, which will have the same end result.
21 laps to go. Waltrip falling 3, now 4 laps down to this tremendous challenge between Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine. This CBS Sports Special, the Talladega Diehard 500, is sponsored by the Diehard Battery from Sears, Haviland Supreme Motor Oil, the motor oil that's cool under fire, and by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. The standings for the 169 laps complete in our live coverage of the Talladega 500. Dale Earnhardt is now leading. Jeff Bodine perched right on his rear bumper. Phil Parsons is gaining on that pair every lap. Then Buddy Baker, the old 75 champion, running in 4th. Sterling Marlin is in 5th. In the 6th position overall in the event, Rick Wilson followed by Cale Yarborough in 7th, Ken Schrader in 8th, Bill Elliott up to 9th, and Rusty Wallace, who's going through meltdown in his point aspirations for the Winston Cup Championship, is back in 10th. There you see the number of laps to go. There you see the 2 leaders. And let's check the interval between this pair running 1st and 2nd back to that 3rd place car. There it is, Phil Parsons closing. It was what, 2.2, something like that?
Whatever it is, it's getting narrower and narrower every lap. And by the time 5 or 6 more laps go by, it's going to be a massive fight for the lead. And right now, the way Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace are running, and neither one of them could be the championship leader when the checkered flag waves today.
And gentlemen, there's one thing that could play a big role in the outcome of this race. There's about a half a dozen cars that are running about 3 seconds in front of Dale Earnhardt right now. They're going to, if this stays green, they're going to have to contend with those lap cars. For the first time today, they really have not come up on lap cars during a green flag run, so they're going to have to contend with those. Whoever gets through that traffic best might come out the winner.
8 cautions, 32 laps thus far in this 20th annual $580,000 Talladega 500. There are the leaders. There's 3rd. That's Phil Parsons in 3rd. No one has ever won their first 2 wins here at Talladega. Phil Parsons back there in 3rd is trying to become that person.
He has a strong car, Ken. Phil Parsons has run strong all day. After this last pit stop, he was back about 10th or 12th, but he has fought his way up to 3rd place now.
15 laps to go, and Baker in 4th. This is his best race of the season. To Jeff Bodine's pits to see what the story is there.
The story at Jeff Bodine's pits is looking over their shoulders right now, because coming on from behind for the 2nd race in a row here is the 55 of Phil Parsons. Now I want to talk to Leo Jackson and see if in fact they're going to be able to catch this man. You did it in the spring race, ran him down from behind by yourself. This time you got some help. You're going to win this thing?
Well, I don't know. You know, it looks like we might have an opportunity. I certainly hope so.
Phil said he'd like to get that monkey of having that first race at Talladega off his back and not have that bad luck charm hanging around his neck. 2 in a row at Talladega would be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, that'd be great. That would ensure him of getting on the winner's circle. It would just make next year start off real good.
Of course, this team's got a new deal for next year with Harry Gant signing on. Let's go down pit road to Mike Joy.
Well, Dave, I'm in the Bodine pit, and we're looking at Kathy Bodine's computer screen. In addition to the other information, she types notes to her husband. Come on, honey, we can win it, or just hang with Ironhead. That's one of Earnhardt's nicknames. His dad, Ralph Earnhardt, of course, who raced against Ned Jarrett, known as Ironheart. But I spoke with Waddell Wilson, the team manager, and he says he can't let Jeff get out of line to try to move on Earnhardt, because then Phil Parsons and the rest of that pack would move right up with them.
Well, Parsons is right there now in a position to strike, and he's got a powerful car. He may be able to do that.
Indeed he has. 175 completed, 188, and Phil Parsons is there, and he's bringing Buddy Baker with him. Back in 11th is Mark Martin, 12th is Kyle Petty, 13th is Lake Speed, 14th is AJ, 15th is Mike Alexander, 16th Labonte, 17th is Hillen, 18th is Alan Kowicki, 19th right now is Mike Waltrip. 20th, Dave Marcus, further back. What an outstanding battle in front. The man who won it back-to-back. Only man to do so. In this Talladega 500, Earnhardt stays in front. And all they can do is wait and anticipate on pit road as Phil Parsons has pulled up from a 2.2 second deficit to run behind the 2 leaders. 176 of 188 complete.
And now there are about 2, 4, 6, 8 cars in that lead draft. Bill Elliott is among them. However, just as I was saying that, as it went into turn 1, the 5th place car, number 44, they slipped back just a little bit. I don't know if they've lost the draft of the lead cars or not. The 4 of them there, those
Buddy Baker's got to be licking his lips here. It's been 111 starts since he won the 1983 Firecracker 5 years ago, and he's about how many feet away from the lead there? 50 feet? 60 feet?
That's very far. He's been here for every Talladega 500. One of only 2 drivers to have that record. He and Richard Petty have appeared in 19 events.
There's Mike Alexander going to lap down on the inside in the car number 12 as they move around him.
That's a funny record. I can't, because as I recall, this was the Talladega 500, which some of them didn't run. And I remember Richard Petty didn't run.
Yeah. 10 laps to go.
It's in the book though.
That was Kathy Bodine, wife of Jeff Bodine, that we saw there just a moment ago. And Jeff Bodine, boy, almost lost it there. And Phil Parsons had to back off for just a moment. Now, whether Jeff got in the draft of Phil Barkdahl, the car number 73, or what happened, but his car got a little bit out of shape.
And Earnhardt gets a break.
Yeah.
And pulls away.
Big break for Earnhardt. And these other guys racing side by side, they'll never catch him that way.
No, they can't. They got to get in single file in order to catch up to him.
Settle down to try it again. Bodine still second, and he is closing. But for just a moment, you saw him having to make a correction up there.
Yeah, they're closing in a hurry now. I'll tell you, two cars can hook up together and really bear down on one car running by himself.
How about 5? Look at Wilson getting into it now.
Yeah. This is anybody's race.
Who are the obvious partners here to try and take on Earnhardt?
I don't know. I still think that Phil Parsons has one of the strongest cars in the field. He can just get himself in the right position. Maybe he and Buddy Baker working together might be the team.
I think Rick Wilson and Buddy Baker are going to pair up.
Elliott back there in 7th in car number 9. There's a slider on the inside.
Well, that's Buddy Baker trying to make a move, isn't he, down on the inside?
Showed some smoke there for just a moment. Almost puts a wheel on somebody. Now remember, the heat of those cars, what, 120, 130 degrees?
Phil Parsons apparently had a problem, car number 55, as he went into the turn. He is way off the pace. So Phil Parsons, who we said had one of the strongest cars in the field, well, he's not strong anymore.
Here's Rick Wilson and that Kodak Oldsmobile lying 3rd and closing, and the people are going to the top of the track to get those speeds and revolutions up.
If you step off the throttle at all, you really fall back here. It takes you a lap to get it back with these restrictor plates on. 179 of 188 complete. Now 180 down. 180 complete, and Phil Parsons' aspirations. He's way back. Running almost 6 seconds back now. As he caves in within sight of the checkered flag.
And in that top 5 there are 2 drivers who have never won, Rick Wilson and Sterling Marlin. So they would have to be considered long shots. And how many times have we seen? I think it's 6 drivers of the 17 who have won this race that won their first race here.
Look who's nosing into the crowd here, joining the party. Bill Elliott, right at the tail end in 5th place.
And remember that it was Elliott and Wilson who hammered doors right to the finish line, with Elliott winning by 3 feet on the 4th of July in Daytona Beach, Florida. It's live here on CBS. The finish coming up on the Talladega 500 as Dale Earnhardt continues to lead.
This is one race where you don't go to the refrigerator for a cool drink until it's over.
Down to the inside comes Elliott. From the outset, the story has been Waltrip all afternoon. He sat on the pole. He dominated through it. There was tremendous lead changes among a pack of some 28 cars, but overall, it seemed like when he wanted to, he could go to the front. There have been 8 caution periods in this race, which have slowed the race dramatically from the pace we usually see. 29 lead changes among 14 drivers as we get ready to sugar this one off. As Dale Earnhardt, the only man to have ever won this race back-to-back, 17 different winners in 19 races. The other man to have a repeat victory was Darrell Waltrip, with a couple of years interval between those 2 wins. Earnhardt is in front, Bodine is in second, and Rick Wilson seeking his first Winston Cup victory on the racetrack that favors those kind of people who've never won before. Now running 3rd, and you see the yellow and red number 4 going to the outside as he came out of that corner, out of turn number 4. Bill Elliott running back there just behind number 44 in the 6th position. We asked Elliott what he thought his chances of winning here really were.
You know, here, if you're within the first 4 or 5 cars at the end of the race, you got a chance to win, and that don't matter where you go or what you do. You know, if you're within reach, you know, and anybody that's racing up can understand that. But there again, here is a racetrack that if you're in the top 20 any part during the day, you could be one of the ones close enough to the end to be able to put a move on somebody to win the race. You know, here it's going to be, you know, who knows.
10 cars are running in the lead pack as the laps trickle away. Buddy Baker, who had been running in 4th, now back in 10th.
Ken Schrader's pulled up alongside of Elliott there to try and move into a contending position.
Wilson, who likes the long tracks, who loves to go fast. You can see the left side of his number 4 Oldsmobile badly battered. Chevrolet from Cale Yarborough's car, and Cale is in 6th, having his best afternoon of 1988. He's very much in it to decide it all. Under 5 laps to the finish. Top 4 cars, Sterling Marlin, who started outside of the front row, number 44, back into 4th, following. Car number 4, Rick Wilson, the black, number 3. Earnhardt stays in front, defending Winston Cup champion. Can take the lead in the point battle. He can come out on top in this battle today.
Well, Ken Schrader and Bill Elliott were running side by side there for just a moment, and that cost both of them. Cale Yarborough moved around both of them into the 5th position, and it allowed the front 4 cars to pull away a little bit from the others.
Cale now trying to bear down on those top 4.
Yes, he is. He gained on them once he got in that 5th position.
Cale Yarborough having a magnificent afternoon. Such frustration for him all year long, because you know how much he loves to race and he loves to win.
And boy, there's nobody better at drafting than Cale Yarborough. He has a lot of experience. How many times have we seen him here on CBS come up on the last lap or 2 and take the lead and win?
Here he comes. Cale on the outside, going around Wilson. Down into turn number 1. He pulls up on young Sterling Marlin. Slides back just a bit.
Well,
Caught on the outside.
Schrader down on the
take
inside.
Advantage of the fighting.
Yep.
Here comes Wallace back. Cale out of the draft and falling back. Meanwhile, Rusty Wallace right here. He's pulled up to take a shot at Wilson.
Well, maybe I bragged a little too soon on Cale because he is good at drafting, but boy, he made a move there that cost him.
Dale Earnhardt stays in 1st. There you see Bodine in 2nd. Sterling Marlin in 3rd. Here comes Kenny Schrader into 4th. Rick Wilson to 5th.
Nobody wants to make a move on Earnhardt yet. You think they can, or are they waiting?
I think they're waiting, Chris. I think they're afraid to make the move now. The same thing might happen that happened to Cale Yarborough just a lap ago. But the time has come. They're going to have to make that move very quickly. Only 2 laps to go. There's Richard Childress looking on, car owner for Dale Earnhardt.
Can he stay on the point? I think that's where he wants to be. Rusty Wallace, here's Mark Martin has pulled back into it again.
Yeah, I think Earnhardt is in the position that he wants to be in, and let them go for it, because I think what he thinks will happen is that they'll start racing side by side back there, trying to move around him for position, and that'll just let him go on and win the race.
Lapping Mike Waltrip on the inside. White flag, 1 lap to go. Talladega 500. Always dramatic, always exciting at the finish. Here comes Sterling Marlin on the outside.
Well, what a move. Now, can he make it stick?
Sterling Marlin hanging on, and he's with Schrader. Now Marlin dives to the inside.
Can't quite do that.
Oh, 3 gets sideways for just a moment.
And Schrader moving up on the outside, a very smart, fast move by him.
44 is boxed, and he had to slam it to the inside. This will double them all back up again. Schrader has the advantage. Rick Wilson goes to 2nd, and he won't give ground. It's a break for Ken Schrader. Earnhardt on the bottom, and as they run side by side, Schrader gets a little distance. Coming down for the finish of the 20th annual Talladega 500. Missouri's Ken Schrader in front, coming back down out of turn 4 comes Earnhardt. Wilson on the outside. He wants to take one more shot. Here they come, all battling for the lead. Bodine comes back up the middle at the line. Schrader. Checkered flag is out. Incredible win for Ken Schrader in the Harry Hyde car.
What a move that he made on the 2nd turn.
Racing is my business, and I've been going for 50 years, and I can't remember one like this. I really can't.
Well, Ken Schrader's done it. Let's look at a replay of this incredible finish that we have just witnessed here at the Talladega 500. Here they come, every one of them battling for position. Nobody a lap down through the tri-oval. Schrader up on the outside. Look at Earnhardt sideways, getting it back. And at the stripe, it is Ken Schrader who made his unquestionably correct move.
It's a photo for 3rd.
Oh. 2nd was Jeff Bodine, and as you say, a photo for 3rd between Rick Wilson and Dale Earnhardt.
Oh,
wow,
Ken Schrader.
what racing.
has won. I'll tell you, the coolest person under fire today has been our statistician keeping the score. Ann Schrader never looked up as her husband came to the line, just kept on writing down numbers. I can't believe that. They're a pretty good group.
We need to release her so she can get in victory lane with her husband.
Well, there you see the winner. We're very, very late. Standing by for the Buick Open, you see Ken Schrader headed into victory lane. For Ned Jarrett, Chris Economaki, Mike Joy, and Dave Despain, I'm Ken Squires saying so long from the Alabama International Motor Speedway.